just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. I've got the great Guru here. How you going, brother?
Going well, mate. Had a pretty big weekend myself.
Yeah?
Leading into a buck. So I was sitting there sort of checking scores on my phone on Saturday and first game went past. I thought, it was a blowout. Probably a good game to miss. Second game went blowout. Bit of a crazy Saturday. I couldn't believe it.
Mate, such a tough, as a review show, very tough to watch sitting here going, man, half these teams are not even in the running. They got towed up. What's the point of even, Anyway, we'll get to all of the good stuff. But first of all, I would love to announce our first ever major sponsor of Bloke in a Bar has been brought on. It is Budgie Smuggler. Super, super stoked to have these guys be brought on as a sponsor of Bloke in a Bar and a partner. Love what the guys at Budgie are doing. I've been following them for quite a while. I love how proudly Australian they are. Their content is fantastic. And yeah, I thought they were the perfect partner for Bloke. They're very similar to us. I think they represent very similar to what we represent. So I'm super stoked to announce Budgie Smuggler will be a major partner for the final series. Essentially from now until the end of the final series, we'll see how it goes. If it goes great, we'll continue it from there on the podcast and obviously on our social media feed. So to celebrate Budgie joining Bloke, we are offering if you buy something from Budgie Smuggler over the next 7 days, you put in the code BLOKE, you get a 20% discount. So they never do, they very, very rarely do discounts. So I pushed it for you guys to make sure you get something out of this. 20% discount when you put in BLOKE code after purchasing something at budgiesmuggler.com.au. And it's a perfect, you've got some gifts for your old man there or yourself. Father's Day is just around the corner. So head over to budgiesmuggler.com.au, grab whatever you want there, and then you type in Bloke, you get 20% discount. Make sure to get something for the old man. Get something for the old man. And summer is coming up. So head over to budgiesmuggler.com.au. Very, very excited for them to be on board. I know the boys over there. I'm a huge fan of what they've done. So really excited that Budgie Smuggler has joined the Bloke crew. But let's get into the first major talking points that I wanted to bring up with you, Guru. Watching the games on the weekend, I'm sitting there going, some of these teams that can't make the 8, it's almost like you can tell it's very hard for them to get up for footy. And I just think that as a fan, we have to find a way to make the end of the year exciting for every single club. I think that we need to do something about a bottom 8 cup. And that sounds like I'm taking the piss of like a bottom 8 cup. It's like the winner of the losers or whatever.
It's like the beer cup at Oztag.
Yeah, pretty much. The beer cup at Oztag. But I think that we need to create an environment where till the very last game, every team has something to win. Even go as far to go, you know what? If you don't make the 8, there's a mini final series for the bottom 8 sides, so that I just think that A, it generates more revenue for the NRL. B, it keeps fans way more engaged for the rest of the year. Because think about how many Tigers, Titans, Newies, Knights, Warriors fans. It's real, like they just check out. Like, why? What's the point? Like, okay, it's cool. You get to watch a game of footy, and we all enjoy that for sure. But you're nowhere near as connected. Whereas if there was some kind of competition where you could win $1 million, and that $1 million goes to, let's just say, development or to infrastructure, so we could structure it where like it doesn't directly impact the salary cap. Plus, I think it almost helps the lower tier teams kind of, progress. What do you think about adding something to the bottom 8?
So would you do this during the actual final series? Is that what you're saying?
Whether it's the final series or whether it's like the team that finished 8th, the team that finished 9th gets some kind of reward, whatever it is, just some kind of incentive to keep footy exciting into the year. I personally would like, how good would it be if every team played all the way? Not every team, sorry, but you had your final series. Now, again, I know that the Super League do something, but they've got a relegation system.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ready for a relegation system at all, not even close to it. We've seen some of the standard over the weekend. But I do think that if you're a bottom tier club and you can, win $1 million or whatever it is, and the players win, I don't know, 10K each or something, I think that would make it much more exciting for the lower tier clubs.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, firstly, on the relegation thing, I completely agree with you. We don't have the infrastructure to make it work. And, obviously this comes off the back of the weekend where we had a number of blowouts. I mean, I had a lot of people message me the same thing last night. This is the other thing for people that want to draft. If you think the end of the season's boring now, if we had a draft and teams were tanking, it'd be 10 times worse. These are two things I don't think we can go down that avenue. But yeah, I don't mind the idea. I mean, I think you'd have to make it a bit more appealing to the players themselves. As a former player, if your team was done and dusted, long season, would you want to play those extra 4 weeks? Like there'd have to be a bit in it for you, wouldn't there?
Yeah, for sure. But in saying that, you are a part of the club. Like if the club makes it a big deal and sets the standards, it's just a way. It just becomes, if you could make it enticing, exciting. So, for example, I don't know. Again, this is all throwing ideas out there, guys. I haven't sat down and gone through everything that could go right or wrong. It's just the idea that I think is good to try. Whether it's, could you make it some kind of tournament that is exciting? So it's like, for example, you look at the Nines. It's really successful. People love it. It's enjoyable. The players all get around it, and so I wonder whether so players can be incentivized. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be very easy for us to go, why would players have a crack in the Nines? They get nothing for it. But because it's like a festival thing, and I wonder, like, could there be, the week after the let's say you're in the bottom 8 sides, the 2 weeks after or the week after, there's a Nines tournament or something. Something. Again, I'm just throwing some ideas out there.
Yeah. And I like the idea. I think we do need something, but the thing that I worry about is however you would do it, I think that so many of these clubs would pull their star players out of it. I really do. And I think
if you could win $1 million for development, like think about how much a club could use $1 million.
Fair. Yeah.
And like the NRL can afford $1 million for a tournament like that. They'd make more than $1 million off the revenue they generate.
Yeah, I think you would have to put up something big like that. I think it would take a lot. And for example, Penrith Panthers, they're going to win the minor premiership next week. They're going to get 100K. So I'm a little bit worried about whether the NRL would put up that much for it. But I think it would have to be a big bit of bicky.
Yeah, for sure. And look, it's hard because, like, if the NRL only put 100K up for the minor premiership, which is honestly laughable. Like,
it's ridiculous.
It's honestly laughable. But I can understand the not wanting to give too much money to the winners because then it's like you're making the best even better. So I think you kind of just got to wear it. And in the sense of like, if we want the game to be as tight as possible and we want to make it exciting for the bottom tier teams, like I think the top teams have got to they might sit there and be frustrated. Hey, we won the whole comp and we don't get money. But then it's like, but all the money you generated from running through that final series and winning the comp would be much more than $1 million. Like, let's be real. You'd make $1 million on merch alone, literally, over the final series, especially if you make it to the grand final. I don't know. As I said, I don't have all the X's and O's. I don't, all the little details. So don't get down there in the comment section and be like, what about blah, blah, blah? Like this is, I'm talking about.
I'm doing that for you, don't worry.
Yeah. I'm talking just about the broad concept of how can we incentivize these bottom 8 sides and the bottom 8 sides fans to stay engaged with the game and make it exciting all the way up to the death. But what I will say is let us know in the comment section if you disagree. Let us know why you disagree. But also if you agree, let us know some ideas that you have, what you think would work. If you're listening to this via audio, head over to our YouTube, make sure to subscribe, then head down to the comment section, make sure to like the video, and just leave an idea there. Matter of fact, you know what? Best idea, we're going to send a case of Bloke and a bar to. We're going to send a case of Bloke and a bar to the best idea on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe, like the video, then leave an idea, or even, like, it could even be strongest disagreement in the sense of, like, the most well thought out why this won't work. That could win the case as well. So leave a comment, let us know what you guys think, and you can win a case of Bloke and a Bar beer. But yeah, what just first initial, what comes to your mind? What you would do?
I think you would have to run it during the final series for sure, and then I don't know. I think you would almost do it like the beer cup. You have the bottom teams play the same games as the finals in the same structure. The top teams get the advantage, same as the top teams do in the top 8. And then, I don't know, you could have it on grand final day. It could be part of the calendar there. But yeah, I just think I would have so many fears about the NRL putting this together properly and the clubs and the players getting behind it. Did you have many seasons where it was just, did you have many seasons where you're in like the Newcastle Knights position where I'm sure they're just looking at the end of the season going, fuck, come on, just arrive.
Not that I can remember. Like, yeah, it's tough because the thing that surprises me about some teams that just completely, and maybe it's easy for me to say because I was never on like the big coin, but you're playing for contracts and that. Like that's so when I see some players that are off contract or whatever, that it looks like they're a bit. Put it this way, physically and mentally, by the time the season ends around, you are spent. Like you are so just like, oh my God, I need to like have at least a couple of weeks off just to get my body just right. Because by the end of the season, I can guarantee you every single player in the club has some kind of injury. Like it is not, for the life of me, I can't think of a single person that goes through a footy season and at the end of the season, they don't have at least a minor something, whether it's shoulder, whether it's, your finger needs to be sorted out or your ankle or whatever. So I can understand, that side of things where players are getting to the end. But, like, in saying that, then they just get beaten by the clubs that have better standards,
Yeah.
If there's a couple of teams that are just over it and they want to check out, then it's kind of like, well, that's why you're not in the finals. Like, that's why you won't taste the success of the good sides.
And just to make it even harder, next year it'll have to be a bottom 9 cup if you were to do it. That's the other thing that'll make it difficult as well, uneven numbers. So I love the idea. I do think we need something because it sort of gets a little bit stagnant now.
Oh, man. Some of these games where teams can't make it, it's just like, it's almost like, what's the point? Like, it's kind of interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, they look like there was a pretty good turnout with that Dragons-Titans game.
But even that game, I mean, the Dragons scored 46. They conceded close to 30 still.
Yeah, it was like it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Matty?
Maybe just to add to all that, like obviously you need a big prize, but maybe they can take the games to PNG, Fiji, throughout the country, use it as an opportunity to grow the game as well.
Well, that's what I meant with like the festivity of it. So like I was thinking like, again, I don't, the NRL may not want to spend this money, but you maybe have it like a tournament style in, it goes for a week or whatever it is. It goes for a weekend, like a magic round or something at the end of the year. Again, it's just ideas, but we have to find a way, in my opinion, to incentivise the end of the season. I just think that there's money to be made there. There's money. There's more engagement from fans. There's money to be made. There's opportunities for lower clubs to fight some kind of success back. Like, think about like a team, if you're in the bottom 8, then you go on and you win, the let's just call it the beer cup or whatever. Fans would love that. Like at the grand final of the beer cup, fans would be fully behind that. So I get what you're saying in the sense of like there's some clubs that will just want to clock off. But it's like, okay, then you don't win. You get towed up. Yeah. See you later. You're out first week.
You're pretty much in the same spot you were anyway.
You played a week longer.
Yeah.
Played a week longer. See you later. You can go and get your holiday. Whereas the teams that like, see the incentive and whether it's for the club or whatever, their fans get all behind them and they get a whole final series that's just as enjoyable. Like, it's almost just as enjoyable because you've got something to win.
It's crazy, like when you look at it, at the state we're in now, where there would be teams that would pull their players out. You look back 30, 40 years ago, there was midweek comps. There was like just so much more rugby league being played. This is where like I'd be interested to hear like what a Clint Newton would think of it, whether the RLPA would sort of go straight away, they're playing too much footy as it is. Well, I'm being very glass half full, just to make a counter argument.
No, joke.
Yeah, but I mean, it's boring as batshit if we both agree on everything,
No, I think my argument, and I'm usually very pro RLPA, but my argument would be like, well, they were supposed, if they make the grand final, that's what they're supposed to play anyway. Yeah. So are you saying like, we get an extra holiday because we're not good? Like, and also on top of all of that, they don't get extra time off because the teams that get knocked out, as in they don't play final series, they come back to preseason a month earlier than, or even like 6 weeks earlier than the teams that win the grand finals. If you win a grand final, you're not back in preseason. Well, your top squad that played, they're not back until preseason until like, late November? Whereas the teams that like get knocked out and don't play any finals footy, I think they're back like, is it late October? And then the teams that win, I've forgotten what it was.
It's not far off that. It's not that long after the grand final. The bottom teams return.
They're already coming back, and then it's late. I think it's late November for the teams that won the grand final. I mean, some teams have gone as far, like with the rep footy, where they don't come back till January. If you play all the way to the finals, and then also you play rep footy, the rep players. Yeah, look, I think I'd be excited. Put it this way. If Broncos, the last couple of years, played the way they did, but then we played a beer cup, I'd fucking love that. And if we won it, it'd be sick.
Yeah, you could even look at the way that other sports do it around the world. Like, it's obviously very different, but like the NFL, the week of the Super Bowl, they have their All-Stars or whatever it's called, where it doesn't include the two teams in the Super Bowl, but then they have everyone else that they form two teams out of.
Yeah.
And like they sort of do East, West or North, South or whatever the hell it is. But I think over the last few years, what they've done, which could be an interesting thing, and you could maybe have a round robin of this, they have like two former champion players and they pick a squad out of all the players that are left.
Oh,
You have like a series. So you might have like Wally Lewis's team versus Andrew Johns' team, and these two are the coaches of it, and they pick a draft system. It'd be entertaining. I don't know how it would all work. You obviously wouldn't have all the teams involved then. But
we're so scared. We're so scarred from the internet, bro.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
But, mate, you're right. I just think that, from the player's perspective, if you truly care about the club you're at, you get an opportunity to generate money for them. From an NRL's perspective, you can generate an extra 50 million, like, let's go conservative, $20 million. That's massive money. And from the broadcaster's perspective, because you've essentially got three partners in this. You've got the players, you've got the NRL, and you've got the broadcasters. Everyone wins. And all the players are like, oh, you know, I want to end the year early and I want to, bounce to Bali or whatever. It's like, sweet, get towed up the next week and then you can go. And, unfortunately, that's you win the spoon or whatever, So everyone wins with this. They really do. And to the argument of, they're playing too much footy, it's kind of like, well, if they had made the grand final, they're playing too much footy. And they just go back to preseason later. I think it would be awesome. I really do.
Surely the players would rather play an extra 3 or 4 weeks of footy and then all come back to preseason, December 1?
Yeah, that's the thing. And, at the end of the day, if you're an NRL player, you should mostly love playing footy. Mostly love playing footy.
If you make the prize the trip of a lifetime for the end of season trip covered by the NRL.
Well, that's the thing.
Interesting.
You can take a team that's won the spoon in the season, goes on, wins the beer cup, and let's say the prize for them was a fully paid trip to X place, and you don't have to pay for anything. The boys would love it. Yeah. The boys would love it.
You'd see some footy.
You'd see some fucking massive footy. You'd see some blokes come out and play like you'd never seen before. So again, I'd love to hear everyone's ideas. I think there is opportunity for everyone in this. There's opportunity for the broadcasters, the NRL, and the players. Yes, the season is long. I understand that, but all that happens is you just push everyone's preseason back a little bit further. Because we can't play any rep footy in this time. We can't do anything else. So,
I also think this year it would be really interesting because obviously you got a World Cup and, I'm looking at guys I'm looking at Ben Hunt from the Dragons. I think he'll be in the Kangaroos side, but he's going to give 8 other teams 4 weeks of playing bright lights footy that he's not going to be there for. A guy like Hudson Young, who I think could be a real smoky, he's probably going to fall a little bit irrelevant over the next 4 weeks by the time it comes. So it would be a good opportunity for, and I mean, you got this World Cup. There are going to be a lot of guys from, your Tonga, Samoa that aren't going to be playing rugby league for the next 4 weeks heading into this World Cup.
You know what? Here's another thing that's great too for it. You blood some players in it. You blood some young players. Look, if you don't care about it and you're just like, you know what, we'll have a crack. You put some young guys in. It's not in season. The season's over. So if Landis gives us a call, mate, I'll sort it out for you. Look, I think it'd be exciting. I'm honestly getting excited thinking about it. Thinking about seeing that kind of footy. The beer cup would almost be... I'm getting excited because Bloke could sponsor it.
Yeah, the beer cup has to be brought to you by Bloke, surely.
Brought to you by Bloke. Matter of fact, if this idea ever comes, I'm suing unless I can be sponsor because I said it first and I nah. Anyway, joke. I'm just joking. But I just think there would be a kind of relaxed, fun nature about it because it's it's kind of serious, but also let's have a bit of fun. So let us know in the comment section what you think. Now, I wanted to talk a bit about transfer whispers because obviously we're not going to spend as much time on the teams that can't make the finals and we'd just be repeating ourselves week in, week out. As you've probably, some of you, the fans, probably over the last couple of weeks with the teams that are out, probably hearing the same thing over and over. So I thought we'd talk about a bit of transfer whispers. Again, just to be really clear, guys, this is just whispers. So there's no confirmation. Don't take this to the bank. This is put it this way. When you see transfer whispers with the journos and that, usually what's happened is the journos rang a manager, and a manager said, look, there's been a bit of talk or a bit of interest from this club, but nothing's been done yet. But it may happen. So it's not like this is out of nowhere. Journos usually get it from somewhere. Garrick to the Knights to play fullback, and then Ponga to 6. Matter of fact, there was even a report yesterday that Ponga has come back and is training at 6. Joey Johns has come out and said, I personally don't see it. I think he should stay fullback. Let's talk about Ponga to 6 first quickly. No, let's talk about... we'll talk about Ponga to 6 first. What are your thoughts on the Ponga to 6 thing?
I'm with Joey. I don't like it. I don't think he's a 6. I think he's an out-and-out 1. He's an incredibly talented 1. It feels like every 18 months Newcastle go, should we play Ponga at 6? And it's like they've reinvented the wheel all of a sudden. It just... I don't understand why they constantly try and do this. I mean, he's had a heap of HIA, he's had a heap of injuries, and you want to put him in the front line? He's your entire franchise. I don't think they can risk to put him in the front line. And I think he's a better fullback than what he is 5'8" anyway. So I think Newcastle, this is just them outthinking the room a little bit. You've got a star origin fullback. Play him at fullback.
But in my opinion, I don't think he's mastered the fullback position yet. I think we've seen some absolute flashes of brilliance. I think we've seen some good, solid years, but I think he's still got a room to grow. Like I don't think we've even seen maybe what you reckon 80% of his potential.
Oh, you're being generous, I reckon.
Yeah, maybe 75%.
Like when you see what he does in the Origin arena,
he is like I believe personally, Ponga's potential is as good as Tedesco, in the sense of like Ponga's best game, in my opinion, can challenge Tedesco's best game. Obviously, Tedesco, the reason why he's one of the GOATs at fullback is his consistency. And so I think I understand the want to do that because they're short on halves. But if they even had, if they just brought at least one half to the club, I don't even think they'd be, thinking about this. What do you reckon, Matty?
Yeah, I was just about to say the counter argument is they've got pretty much not many halves at the moment. And if they can bring in a half-decent fullback, then that's probably why they're thinking about it. Now, I don't agree with that. It does make a little bit of sense in my head. But again, they've tried it before and it didn't work. And he's an Origin fullback. Look how good he played in Game 3. So, yeah, they're better off chasing a good half.
I just think putting him in the front line, wrap him in cotton wool. Like, do not any extra work. Matter of fact, I don't even want him taking tough carries anymore. I just want him doing all the good stuff. Anyway, but again, there's whispers that they may be considering it. So I do agree with your point, Matty, where I can understand the argument if you can get Garrick to the club. The club with Garrick at fullback, Ponga at 6, Clune at 7 or Clifford, but probably Clune at 7. That's much stronger to me, just purely from a strength-wise, than Ponga at fullback, Clune and Clifford in the halves.
I think if they still had Mitchell Pearce, I'd feel a little bit more confident of it. But I don't think they've got the 7 to bring Ponga into 6 and get him to learn that new position.
But you don't. So you think this team that's stronger is Ponga at fullback, Clune and Clifford at 6 and 7?
It might be stronger, but you're paying an absolute mozza to play Ponga out of position. It just doesn't. I just think it's a backwards move. Ruben Garrick's a great player, but I think Ponga's a better fullback than Ruben Garrick. And I understand that team might be better, but you don't know how he's going to go at 6. Well, you do. Well, you've seen it before. It didn't go overly well. All of a sudden, you'll be left with, they'll probably have to pay $800 to get Ruben Garrick.
Oh, I don't know about that much. Fuck. He wouldn't be on much at Manly. He'd be on probably 100, 200, I reckon.
Ruben Garrick?
On the Sting? Yeah, 100%. I reckon he'd be on about 200. 100%.
Jesus, okay.
What, a non-rep winger that only just moved to fullback. He didn't sign his contract this year.
Yeah, fair, okay.
He would have signed it last year maybe?
So what do you reckon that the Knights could sign Garrick for then?
I reckon 5 or 600.
Okay.
800. He's not getting 800 anywhere. Garrick. He's and that's. I'm not being disrespectful. I fucking never. I got
okay,
a tenth
fair.
of that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, so I think he'd be able to get 6s then.
Yeah, okay.
Going to
6s.
this club, leading Manly.
Yeah,
I reckon he would.
That's reasonable. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
I'd probably land him around the 500, but 6 is reasonable. 6 is reasonable. I just think at Manly, I don't think he's getting paid very much, only because you look at Manly's cap. Like, it is
fair.
so
okay.
heavily
that was
invested.
probably over. But still, then you'd be paying, what are you looking at, 1.6, 1.8 for a winger to come and play fullback and for a fullback to play 5'8"?
Yeah, but I think Garrick is probably a better fullback than winger. Like, I actually think...
It probably is, but I mean, the conversation, like, you look around the comp at the other fullbacks, like, if I could get any of the top 10 fullbacks for 600, I'm fucking cheering. I mean, they're paying KP $1 million to play fullback, and they're going to play him at 5'8".
Yeah. Well, their argument could be, you know, 6 is even more important role than fullback, so it's actually better for our cap to put that $1 million into the 6 and 5 to 600K
I
as a
just think
fullback.
they need to look at how they're using KP. Look at the positions they're putting him in. Like, I don't know, I couldn't think of a more dangerous player to take on a team off a scrum. He never does it. He never does it. You look at that play that Nico Hines, he threw a cutout pass for Ikavalu on the weekend, where Matt Moylan got the ball and just played a link man role and hit him at top pace. Newcastle never do that with KP.
Yeah, no.
It's such a simple thing to put him in such a good position. He is the best guy in rugby league at just getting outside his A defender, and they never put him in the positions to be able to do it.
Look what he does at Origin. Go look at his Origin highlights. It's all about getting on the outside of his third defender.
It's just about getting on the outside shoulder, and then it's over. He made New South Wales look silly, and I don't understand why Newcastle never put him in those positions.
See, you know, like I sound like I'm pro Garrick to fullback, and I'm more Garrick to Newcastle. I'm more pro happy for Garrick that he may get a big contract
and fair,
at fullback
because he deserves it. Yeah,
I think he's been absolutely. Matter of fact, DC's probably been their best player all year, but I'd have Ruben Garrick as at least one of their best players
he'd be top
all year,
3.
easily all year. But the reason why I wouldn't, if I were the Knights, is I just think you're kicking the can down the road. You need to sort your halves out in a good, solid manner by risking the chance of, like, let's say you do put Garrick at fullback and you put Ponga at 6. If it doesn't work out, you're putting Ponga back to fullback, you're moving Garrick to the wing, and you're exactly where you started. So I think they need to... Their half situation is so dire that they honestly may have to just come to the realisation that they're not going to play finals footy for a couple of years until they can develop someone to be there, or until someone comes on the market that is a great buy. Me personally, I'd be saving all my pennies to bring Hastings or Dewey to the club. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, and I think Hastings would be the better fit there. If you've got Hastings, I can see the Ponga to 6 a little bit more, because Hastings has shown that he will just put guys in the right spots. Doesn't do anything flash, doesn't do anything fantastic. He just gets rugby league and gets just getting around the field and putting your weapons in key positions, which is where I think Newcastle have wasted Ponga the last few years.
But it is interesting. It's interesting. Just want to reconfirm, guys. This is all whispers. There's nothing confirmed. This is all speculation.
And it isn't just on top of that. Like, it was so bizarre in the first 3 weeks. We were sitting here going, fuck, how good's Newcastle? KP wasn't touching the ball then either.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Like, they weren't utilising him then, and they were flying. I think they got worse at utilising him, and then it just went downhill. It's been a crazy season.
Bizarre.
Newcastle.
Newcastle, you know, I feel like a broken record, and we won't continue to repeat what we said, but Newcastle's biggest issue for me is their junior development. They are a rugby league heartland, and they've got almost the biggest swath of land out of, like, think about their closest competitors north. It's fucking the Titans.
Yep.
You know, like the Titans, the second youngest club in the comp, with Rabbitohs being the youngest. And you know what I mean? Like, they have a huge they have like a massive swath of country rugby league to pull from. They've got, you know, to a lot of people, the GOAT of rugby league, Andrew Johns. Like, think about, I reckon that, like, there's probably 500,000, no, maybe, I don't know, I'll go less, 200,000 people that are purely rugby league fans just because of Andrew Johns. Like, they literally only became fans because of Andrew Johns. You know, I'm sure there are, you know, millions of people that love rugby league because of Andrew Johns, but I mean as in, like, truly they watched Joey play and then just started playing rugby league. And so it's their junior development for me, it has to be sorted. They have to. I'm not sure how they are financially as a club, but they have to find a way to invest just a mozza in junior development, like so much money to just funnel all the great talent through. Because we've been through it a million times before, but when you go down the list of all the players that that they have that have grown up in that area, that have moved on to be superstars at other clubs, and some people might go, well, every club has that. Yeah, but most of the clubs that have that have an incredible roster, and that's why those players move on. Whereas the Knights are at the bottom of the table, struggling, and they've got no incredible guys coming through at the moment. So I think it's their junior pathways.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just been in a bit of shambles the last few years. And like you obviously mentioned Joey, then there's other guys that might not be from directly Newcastle, but around there. Like you could argue Danny Badiris. Like they found the best halfback ever and potentially the second best hooker ever.
Pretty much the second best hooker, yeah. Other than maybe Walters.
Yeah, and then you look over the last few years, the guys that have come out of Newcastle that are really good in the competition, none of them are playing for the Knights.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, where like some people go, well, other clubs have had that. Yeah, but usually in that case, it's because, like, for example, we'll just use, and this is a bad example, but, it's just because I know it, the Broncos Ash Taylor situation. The reason why they lost him is because they had Ben Hunt and Anthony Milford, and they were in, like, grand final territory. The Sam Walker one was a devastating loss, and there's really no excuse for why we lost him. I think we lost Sam Walker more along the lines of the power of the Roosters rather than every club has lost a gun. You look at the Rabbitohs with the Suwaliki. That's not really the Roosters Rabbitohs' fault, but you look at the squads and you go, well, they've got their grand final squad, so it's very. A Rabbitohs side that's a grand final side has every right to be, I guess, firm on their standards of like, no, if you want to come to this club. And so, but the problem with Newey Knights is like, I don't see a reason for them to be losing these players, It's not like they've got these like guns in all the key positions outside of obviously Ponga at fullback.
But like you look back over the last 20 years, like even like a Boyd Cordner was from Old Bar.
Latrell.
Not that far. I remember talking to Peter O'Sullivan. He found Latrell because he was playing for the Central Coast side because he got brushed from the Newcastle side.
Yep. So
he signed him in the warm-up. He didn't even watch him play. He just saw Latrell warm up and signed him. And Newcastle got him for trials and didn't see it.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, honestly, if I'm a scout and I just saw Latrell run, I'd go, boom, sign him up.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
He saw him hold a ball and jog around in the warm-up and signed him on the spot.
Like this bloke that's 6 foot whatever and he can move.
Yeah.
We'll teach him all the other stuff.
I was listening to Matty Johns talk about the other day and his name escapes me. The fellow that just signed with Penrith from Brisbane that you were devastated about the other
Zach
day.
Hoskins.
He's a Newcastle boy. Matty Johns was talking about watching him come through the juniors going, when is this guy going to get a shot? They pissed him off to Brisbane. They give him one game of football and Penrith go, yep, sweet.
Boom, we'll have him.
He's from he was a Newcastle junior, Matty Johns was saying.
Yeah, and look, I hate to put the boot into Newey. Like, I know they're doing it so tough right now. I'm not putting. You know what? I'm not putting the boot in them. I want Newey to go well. In my opinion, I just think their juniors.
Footy's better when Newcastle.
Oh mate, when Newey were going on that run and you could feel the energy, it was fucking amazing. Anyway, we'll move on. Fuck, we started at fucking Garrick.
Yeah.
Anyway, Titans to offer a 2-year extension for Fafita for $750K a year. So obviously a massive downgrade. Do you think $750K is still probably too much?
I think it's probably still a little bit overs. Yeah. But if you can get the very best out of him, it's probably unders. Are they going to? I don't know.
See, I read an article, and I don't want to misquote or anything, but it kind of, Holbrook was kind of trying to entice Fafita to maybe play 13, or he wanted to move him in there. And I'm just like, just get him in there. Like, just get him in the middle. Like, I don't know about 13 because I believe you need a ball playing, and also I believe Aaron Clark is perfect for 13, which is bizarre because it's like...
Imagine if he moved Aaron Clark out of 13.
Well, can you try and get the article? Because I'm pretty sure... It is Holbrook saying that he wants to consider Fafita at 13. Again, that is not confirmed yet, guys. That is not confirmed yet. But I reckon the time is over. You've got to get Fafita in the front row. Just get him in there, ripping and tearing. He'll kill it. He'll kill it. I mean, the try that he scored against Manly was just purely because he got a good ball off the ruck, isolated a defender, and steamrolled him. $750K. Look, I agree. I think it's still probably a little bit overs. But in saying that, I understand the market pressure around it because I think there is a lot of clubs out there that would be willing to buy Fafita because they know what they could get out of him. Like, it's very easy. Like, Fafita's such an interesting case because if you remove the price tag, some of the stuff he's done has been phenomenal at the Titans. Seriously phenomenal. And also, I personally don't think he's really played like a very bad game where he's like missed a bunch of tackles, dropped a bunch of balls. His worst game is a solid game. It's just the fact that he may go 2 or 3 games without doing his incredible barnstorming stuff. And so I do think there's a lot of clubs, including the Redcliffe Dolphins out there, that would be willing to pay a fair bit for a guy like Fafita because, like, him at his best is truly something incredible, like truly incredible.
I mean, like, if he was, the Melbourne Storm, they're a team that obviously need back rows. Like, if he was to land down there, it'd be terrifying.
He would annihilate teams, annihilate them.
Yeah. He is like no one we've seen before.
I'm trying not to be like hyperbolic, but I'm like trying to think of a back rower that has done things that Fafita has that's been as barnstorming. And the only similar-ish barnstorming guy is like Tamou that I can think of, but he's obviously not an edge back rower.
Which is funny, when you put Tamou on the edge, he looks lost at sea.
Yeah, I would put him in the middle. I think he'd be perfect for front row. Get him in the middle and just fucking smashing the ball through. It would be a nightmare for defence.
It's the old KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. just put him in the middle. Just go.
Yeah. Just say, mate, need 20 hit-ups out of you. And that's simple for Fafita then. He goes, yep, sweet, I'll do it. 20 hit-ups, 20, 30 tackles, that's my job.
I think you literally said to him, I want X amount of hit-ups out of you. This is your quota, you just got to hit it.
Just hit 20 hit-ups and then try to make 20 tackles and miss only 2.
Yeah.
And then if you do that, 10 out of 10 from us.
Get to your 10 and we'll give you a break.
Yeah, give you a break, all good. So, look, the $750K a year, I can understand. Like, we have to remember, we're talking about the Titans here.
Yep.
They're at the bottom of the table still. And it seems like a lot, but they're at the bottom of the table. They're going to have to pay a little bit more to keep guys like Fafita.
And not only would they be worried about teams paying more for Fafita, they'd be worrying about better clubs paying him a little bit less for an opportunity there.
Exactly. Because, like, if they go, all right, Fafita, you get $600K, Melbourne Storm's going to go, we'll give you $450 and you can win a premiership.
Yeah.
Anything there, mate? Did you find it? No.
Especially like if he was to sign with a good club at that point, or like a top 8 club, he'd make $100K off playing Origin every year, which he should be shitting into.
Yeah, absolutely. So, interesting. Now, Tyson Gamble been given permission to negotiate. Now, this is actually like Broncos have come out and said that this has happened, so this isn't just whispers or whatever. Gamble has been given permission to negotiate with rival clubs. The Knights possibly interested. I don't think he's the right guy for the Knights. If
you had the right 7, I could maybe understand it. Even then, I just don't think he's the right person that they need.
You know what? Like, after seeing him play this year, and he was a part of the squads that we went on that really good run, like, maybe he can get a lot more money somewhere else, because I'd be pretty confident that he wouldn't even be top 25 at the moment. I think he'd be just a top 30 squad, so about $70K a year I think he'd be on. I think there still might be something there for the Broncos. So I'm a bit surprised about this one, because I thought he was decent at 13. I think that having him there, putting pressure on a guy like Ezra Mam is not a bad thing. As a 14, I think he could really offer something.
Is 14 his best spot?
Well, he did really well at 13. Like, he really did.
Yeah, that's where if Newcastle sign him, surely they've got to play Adam Elliott at 13.
Yeah, fuck, I don't know. So,
but if you buy Tyson Gamble, I agree with you. I think he's probably best
in
just being put out there to play footy.
Yeah.
Without too much structure or an edge to worry about.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, but I'm happy for Tyson because, he wouldn't have gotten a crack at the Broncos unless we were going so fucking bad. And he's made the most of it. And he's brought a lot of passion, a lot of energy. So good on him.
I don't think any team is worse for having Tyson Gamble in their squad.
No,
he's a goer. You can chuck him in at centre, 5'8", halfback, hooker, 13, and he'll have a red hot. He's going to give 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Tyson's an interesting one. Again, I'm a bit remiss as a Broncos fan to let him go because I just think he offers a bit of mongrel, and I think there may be more to him if we just gave him a little bit more of a chance.
Yeah.
But, maybe he just wants a better contract, which is totally understandable. Now, Adam Dewey, leading the contender to be signed by the Storm should Munster leave. This is very speculative. It's more along the lines because I think the Storm reached out to Adam when they wanted to loan someone, and the Tigers didn't let him go. I will say, I think Adam Doueihi probably needs another full preseason at 6 training. I'm a bit concerned about his defence. Now, I don't know whether that's because the Tigers are so hard to read because I don't get the feeling they've backed anyone fully outside Brooks. Like, I don't get the feeling that, like, for example, if I'm Tigers, Doueihi would be extended like 3 months ago. But then I read other reports where it's actually Doueihi that is saying, you know what, maybe I'll test the open market. So I don't know who's, in or out. I will say, Doueihi the last few weeks, unfortunately, he's tried his heart out, no doubt. But defensively, he just has not been there. And usually he's the goer that does it. Now, I love Doueihi as a player, but maybe, and to be fair, he's come back from ACL. So, but I think another full preseason will help him a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, call a spade a spade. There was that game against Newcastle a few weeks ago where his defence was deplorable. It was, I couldn't believe how poor he was that day. That was
tough.
It's very
on him.
Like, he's, like, respectfully to Tyson Gamble, I think Dewey's almost like a better version of, a more skillful version of Tyson Gamble.
Yeah,
like, he's
definitely
a goer. He just goes at everything 100%. He has got more skill set to him. And he's another guy, and there's so many guys in this comp, and he's a classic that if he was to land at the Storm, I'm so confident he'd be a superstar down there.
Yeah, I reckon he'd go all right down there for sure.
Where would you play him at 6?
Yeah, I think you'd probably have to play him at 6. Yeah.
Is that like, I think people forget as well, like, he came from the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and I don't think he knew what position he was at that point.
Yeah, he tried to play fullback, a bit of centre, then he was back to fullback. They tried to him, so.
And, like, if you go back and you watch that Tiger Town documentary, like, I remember watching that going, fuck, they might build a statue of Doueihi at the stadium.
Yeah, I know.
They were so positive on him, and he was the future, and rightly so, I agree, but for him to be coming off contract, like, he's able to negotiate November 1st.
That's why it's interesting. And again, like the Tigers, who are so public about who they want, like they're so open about it, and I haven't really read or heard like a very strong push of like, no, Doueihi's our guy. Like I haven't, and again, I haven't really heard that about Hastings either. So I'm just like, does Tim Sheens have a different plan? Like I don't. And again, the most I've heard Tim Sheens talk about, and to be fair, it's because it's the question he gets asked the most. But the most I've heard Tim Sheens back is Brooks.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's happening.
And like, there's just been some interesting things. Like there was how on earth that thing leaked from the West Tigers a few months ago about when he came back and he was named at centre and he
wanted to play reserve grade at 6.
Like, how does that possibly get out?
Oh, mate, unbelievable. Like,
it's just. If I was doing it, I'd be filthy about that.
Oh, mate. I'd also be... I mean, you can't be filthy because he signed a contract, but, like, him at Storm, he would have come back a better player. In saying that, if he goes to Storm, he's not coming back.
Well, that's what... Yeah, like, I think that's probably the best
smart
decision the Tigers have made in a number of years.
But then it's like, okay, well, how come you haven't locked him in a contract? Like, offer him... Yeah,
their whole problem this year for me has been they've got too many halves. In 6 weeks' time, they might not have enough.
Well, that's what I'm not understanding. It's like Hastings seems like he's on the out. Well, not on the out, but they definitely aren't beating the drums to keep him. Then, like, because he's been moved to 13. Then Doueihi, So I'm not sure what's happening there, but I will say it's going to be interesting him at 6 because he's definitely not a monster. He's definitely not a monster. But I will say, if we ever wanted to see the best version of Doueihi, it's obviously at the Storm.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting at the end of this season. You're going to have this World Cup. I assume Hastings is going to get picked for England. I assume Doueihi will play for Lebanon in it. So they're going to have 6 or 7 weeks away from the West Tigers. Talking to other players, sort of, putting on show what they can do. And I guarantee you that they both are going to play bloody well in this World Cup.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting time.
Very interesting. Now, to be clear, though, if I'm the West Tigers, I'm trying to lock Doueihi in long term. And maybe they are. Again, we don't know. They may be. And it may be Doueihi's party that's sitting there going, we just want to see what we're worth or whatever.
Which you can understand too.
Yeah, totally understand. Now, Tarpanet, 4-year extension is being thrown around at the Raiders. I mean, this makes total sense. Give the man whatever he wants, within reason.
Yeah, I think there's been a real changing of the guard as far as the sort of alpha in that pack this year. Josh has obviously been the guy for a number of years, but I think Tapanet's sort of become that fella. And that's how it should be.
Yeah,
you don't want Josh to hand it over the day he retires.
Yeah.
You want there to be a transition of it.
And Papali'i is a big reason for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Tapine isn't the player he is without without Papali'i's mentorship.
Yeah. And it's crazy, how quickly this has changed, a 4-year extension. Like, I remember sitting here last year going,
Oh, he's gone.
why the hell isn't Ricky Stewart using him?
I remember sitting here last year going, or even earlier this year, maybe, but was it last year or this year?
Last year when all that stuff was going on.
I
At the
remember,
start of this year, it was a shit fight too.
when it all happened, I said, if I'm another club, I am reaching out immediately to the Raiders and to Tapine and saying, what's going on? Like, if you want out, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Obviously, like from a super coach more so's perspective, but I remember it was about round 13 where he played huge minutes and everyone was talking about him, and I sort of thought, it's a matter of time till Ricky plays him for 40 and goes to shit again. Man, he's averaging about 70 minutes over the last 15 weeks, and he looks great.
He looks so good. He looks so confident. He looks so strong. Like, where did this strength come from? Like every time he runs the ball, he's almost impossible to put down.
And like he's shown previously that he's got little flashes of that in his game, but every run, he is a monster at the moment.
Yeah, incredible. So I think this is great. Look, I think the Raiders deserve a massive rap for turning this ship around because it was looking fucking
But people
dire.
forget how bad. Like I sort of had to remind myself how bad it was.
We had players coming out saying they essentially stood with players who were out the door. Like we had Hodgson kind of coming out saying he was almost didn't really agree with what was happening. We're talking about a club captain that had to step down. He stepped down, didn't he?
I think so, yeah, from memory.
Like, it was bad. So fair play to the Raiders. So I think they deserve a massive rap for turning the ship around. And the fact that, look, are they playing the best footy right now? No. But there's still a chance to make the 8. They've got some really good young guys coming through. I personally, Raiders of yesteryear, obviously, I don't mean yesteryear of like the dominant period where they were killing it, but like Raiders of like, from 2000s to whenever, they go into a heap, in my opinion.
And I mean, at the end of the day, like, yes, they're not in the top 8 at the moment, they're 9th. They're one win behind the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Roosters, who, if they give these finals a big shake, like, we're not going to be surprised.
Oh, Roosters and Rabbitohs can win the comp, literally.
And they are one win ahead of the Canberra Raiders.
Yeah. Like this year to make the 8, like if you said you've got to, win, you can not make the 8 and have it had won, what, is it like 14 games and lost 10?
Yep.
That's a pretty hectic,
The Titans were safe in the top 8 last year with 10 and 14.
A loss record.
They lost 4 more games than they won.
Yeah. Like it was, 14 losses, 10 wins?
Yeah.
Whereas this year, to make the 8, you absolutely minimum need 14 wins, maybe even 15 wins. So it's not as bad. This Raiders record, I think if this was last year, they'd be like, 5th or something?
Yep.
So really good to turn around. And I think, Tapine 4-year extension, I think it's a great idea. Lastly, Doggy's set to offer Burton a 4-year deal for $875K a year. Is it overs for where he's at right now and like what he's actually done? Probably. But is it probably going to be worth it? Yes.
Yeah. What would be a fairer amount to pay him?
Oh, I reckon around the 650 to 7.
Okay, so the way that I always think about it is if 7 is fair to pay him, where are you going to spend that $175K that's going to be more worthwhile than having Matt Burton at 6?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. But like he's creeping up to the 900K mark, and in reality, again, this is being extremely harsh. I'm a massive Burton fan, but in reality, his team is 12th.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that it's a safe bet. In that, like, it may not work out the best, but I think it's like one of the safer bets in rugby league that Burton's going to be here for a long time and he's going to be a good footy player.
Yeah, and I sort of think that he fits brand Bulldog. I really do. Like he
does look right in the Doggies jersey.
He does. He's tough. He's still got an incredible skill set, but I just love the way that he plays his footy. And even in that Origin game, he might have had his life saved taking on Dane Gagai, but he's a goer.
Yeah.
That won't be the last Origin stink he gets into.
I truly believe that was the birth of, like, not a villain, but I think his Origin career is going to be like that, where he's just going to be in these moments, not just fights, but like incredible plays, incredible kicks. Like, there's something about him.
He's got something about him.
Yeah, he just has that. almost a bit of Freddie about him. Like he just has these moments, and I don't know what it is about him. It's not like he's overly quick or overly strong or whatever, but he's almost that perfect Origin player, and I don't know why I feel it, but even that moment where you could say, well, Dane Gagai could have done this or that to him, the fact that he had one of these most explosive moments we've seen in Origin in quite a while, came back on the field and still ripped and teared. Like, he didn't shrink away from the moment at all. 99% of people shrink away from the moment. He steps towards the moment.
Yeah.
And I just think that, we're going to look back on that. That is going to be one of many big moments in Burton's Origin career.
And at the end of the day, for that season, he was playing out of position there too. It will. Yeah. Is there a world over the next few years where he can take Jerome Luai's spot? He's obviously played.
I think so.
At the spot before.
I think so. I think Freddie loves him. I think he's so good. Yeah. We have to remember at the end of the day it's now the last 3 years. What is it? 3-2 to New South Wales?
Yeah, I think so.
Last 5 years, sorry. It's 3-2. So it's not as cut and dry, as
for sure.
But I would say it would be a bit unfair for Luai to lose it. I think Luai, depending on form, obviously, but I think Luai probably starts next year. But I tell you what, as soon as there's a little drop, I think Burton will be putting a bit of pressure on it.
I think the other thing with this price tag as well, you've obviously got this Rugby Union World Cup coming up.
Yeah.
I was talking to a mate the other day who's a big Union fan. I just said to him, who are the guys you'd sign? He said Burton in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
he's a club changer, I think.
Yeah.
I think he could change clubs. The problem is for Origin, is when Trell and Tommy are back, you have to make the choice of, do I essentially not have Burton in the squad and go with Luai, or do I? You know what I mean? It's not as simple as, okay, if he doesn't play 6, we'll just put him in the centre. He just can't.
Can't do it. Yeah.
Can't do it. So it's a tough decision.
And it's hard to put him at 14 when you've got the option of having 2 hookers. You've got Jack White, and then isn't going to be in the centre.
You've got Victor Radley's.
Well, not anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking true, eh?
Fuck, that is crazy.
How crazy. As a selfish fan, I feel robbed. And I'm not even from New South Wales. I couldn't give you know what I mean?
Watching him run on and off the field every weekend with new head strap across his head because his face is bleeding constantly, thinking he's going to play for England in the World Cup. Good
honestly,
on him, but fuck,
I feel robbed.
Yeah.
And I'm a Queensland fan. I still feel like I just wanted to see one game of him out
And it's
there.
all because of the last 2 years, that game against Tavita Pangai Jr. where he lost his mind, there was that suspension, the injuries, there's been so many moments where I personally think he would have played Origin.
At least on the bench.
Mate, he's spent about 6 games in the squad.
Yeah.
He's been there heaps.
I got so much respect for his decision, though.
So do I, yeah.
I
I
just
hate it because I'm so...
Selfishly,
filthy,
as a footy fan. But I got so much respect that, that's... he didn't, mince or, go on walk the line and go, you know what, I'll just get him some Origin games under my belt and then I'll go play for England. He made the call before he'd even made his debut. That is such a big call. He's almost guaranteed to be in the squad next year, at least on the bench.
Yeah. You fucking hope so.
You'd almost guarantee, obviously, unless something went wrong.
And that's the other thing as well. It's not like he's 29.
I know. That's why I respect it so much. He
could still play 15 games of Origin if it works out.
And then just go play the World Cup when he's 28 years old or something. That's why it's such an incredible call from him. And same with all those other boys. Let's say, I do believe that a lot of those other boys that chose to play for Samoa, given the choice, I think they would play for Samoa before. If they had to choose between Samoa and Tonga before Origin, I think they would. I really do think they would. So, yeah, respect to him for making the choice. Respect to him. But, yeah, back to Burton. Yeah, Bulldogs. I think it's a given. You almost... Honestly... I think it's way overs, but if he was demanding nearly $1 million, you'd almost be forced to when you think of who else is out there, and the balancing of a salary cap is paying $1 million for your half is not outrageous anymore. So, yeah.
As much as they're 12th, without rehashing, I think a lot of that comes down to the decisions made by the club in the preseason and everything. And next year, you got to remember, you're going to give him Reid Marnie, who, I still think Reid's been good this year. He probably hasn't played his absolute best footy, but thing I would argue about Reed is I reckon he's got the best service in rugby league.
Yeah, he's getting better and better.
His pass is incredible. You'll put William and Kickow outside him. Aaron Schopp just gets better and better every week. So that left edge that he's going to be playing on, getting good service, and obviously having a halfback that he knows his name of, he could be anything. Matt Burton over the next year.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. Slipped out then.
It just came out naturally.
That was natural.
Hey, I want to talk quickly about the CBA, collective bargaining agreement. So the CBA is an agreement between the NRL and the RLPA, which sets out minimum terms and conditions in players' employment and salary cap. So it's like any other CBA. If you've been a tradie that's worked in for a big company, you negotiate your CBA. When you're a teacher, you negotiate your CBA. It's a normal thing. At the moment, the size of next year's salary cap hasn't been agreed to. It's now mid-August. Pre-season starts November 1st. The clubs are extremely frustrated because they are, now I don't agree with it, but they're telling some players like, we can't sign you yet because we don't know what the cap's going to be next year. I think that's a bit unfair where they know what about the cap's going to be. Like, it's going to be at least the same as it was this year. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about, I think it is crazy that this hasn't been agreed to. Now, the RLP came out I think it was a week or two ago, basically saying we have been asking over and over for this draft or whatever, and the NRL hasn't given it to them. Now, that may have changed since they made those comments, but the concern I have is that this is, unless it gets sorted soon, this is how we see player stand-downs. This is how because what happens is that one party may think, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll just take ages to do it, and then, if we take ages to get it done and they've got to go back to preseason, we'll almost call their bluff and say, you guys won't be willing to stand down, you'll take a lesser offer because the season is about to start or whatever. I cannot believe that this hasn't been, this should be in the final stages, if not completed. They're about to go back to work in 2 months. It
should be completed.
Come on. Yeah. What is going on there?
Yeah, and I mean, I reckon this is also playing a part why there are some, you look at the West Tigers, if I'm managing Brooks, Dewey, Hastings, I think I want to wait till I know what it looks like.
Yeah, with a big dog for sure.
If you have a big dog who's coming off contract, 100% you want to wait and see. That's in your best interest and your players' best interest.
Why do you think the NRL is doing this? Do you think it's because it's a negotiation tactic of taking time away so that they're going to take a lesser offer because they're not going to be standing down or whatever?
Mate, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I can't. It
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It makes no, it's...
I know you just said it should be in at least the final stages. It should be done. November 1st is around the corner.
Yeah. Well, what? We're nearly in September.
Yeah. And I guarantee that if one of the clubs screws up their salary cap and they're over next year, the NRL is going to come down on them like a ton of bricks.
Massively. Massively. We're talking about hundreds of people's lives here. And it's just pretty much we don't know what it's going to be. And just really, really... Yeah, I'm sure the NRL have their reasons. There's no doubt that they have their reasons, but I don't know. I just got to be better than this.
Does this happen in other sports?
Yeah, surely not. Maybe it does. I don't know, but we're 8 weeks away essentially from.
It just seems like a very rugby league thing.
So it expires. Have you got where it expires here? Anyway, I'm pretty sure it literally expires in late October. So it's kind of there are players right now that haven't even got a certainty of employment next year. Obviously they will be employed. This isn't just going to explode. But it's far out. Come on, man. We got to be better than that. It's going to be bad for the game if it does come to a point where they come in. Because what's negotiation is all about. One party's going to come in with the lowest offer possible. Then you need time to slowly go back and forth. The concern I have is then robbing themselves of that time to go back and forth.
Yeah.
So this really could end up in a really, really bad position where players are going, hang on a sec. No, we don't agree to that offer. So
I would have assumed this would have been done 12 months in advance.
Surely. It really, really should be. It's almost crazy that clubs...
How can it not be?
Clubs are signing these massive deals. They don't even know what it's going to be. It's just, it's got to get sorted. It's just not a good look for the game on both sides. Got to get sorted for the NRL, got to get sorted for the players as well.
I wonder if there are, like, there obviously would be some clubs that are sitting on their hands to see. Like, I wonder if that's what Melbourne are doing.
Well, Davies, a club has literally told Davey from Manly, we can't sign you because we don't know what the salary cap's going to be next year. So there are players out there that genuinely are being told by clubs, we can't sign you because we don't know what the cap's going to be next year. And that's the thing. Like, let's say you filled the cap up to I think it's like $9 million or whatever, and you're expecting that, okay, maybe they're going to put an extra, I don't know, $500K on it. It's the lower tier players that are going to be in that $500K.
So the CBA has gone from 2018 to the end of 2022. So the new one starts in 2023, which is November 1.
Yeah. So it's like they've had 5 years to sort this out. Like, 18 to 2022. So 4 or 5 years to sort this out, and they don't even have a draft of it yet.
And it's where if an Andrew Davey runs out this weekend and does an ACL, he's fucked.
That no one will sign.
This exact thing happened to one of my best mates. He was playing New South Wales Cup. He had a contract that was in the last few stages of being signed to go to England to make some good money. He dislocated his hip that weekend. Didn't play rugby league again. Like all that money down the train.
Crazy.
Simply because didn't get pen to paper in those 4 days previously.
Crazy.
And like the same thing could happen with, and I'm confident Andrew Davey wouldn't be the only one. That's just
there's heaps. Apparently, there's quite a few players that literally, and it's all the sad thing is, it's all the fringies.
Yeah,
it's all the battlers that are on smaller contracts trying to make it work. It's not the big dogs; they're going to be fine. It's always the little guys that feel the pinch, which is just, I just cannot believe that we've had this long, and it's again, maybe it's changed since I last read it, but the RLP literally put out a statement saying they haven't even seen a.
And then like those fringe guys, like they are so important to our game as well. Like you see when there's injuries and stuff, and when there's guys that come into teams that aren't ready for first grade, but it stands out like a sore thumb.
Absolutely.
Like you look at, like your Andrew Davey, what he's done at Manly this year. You look at your Neokores, these sort of guys that come in and like. Without them, when you put spot defenders into teams, it's a different game of football.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the quote. Never in my history as a player or with the association have I seen such delays, despite repeated requests to get going and repeated promises that we are going to get a financial proposal from the NRL. When you consider there are 240 NRLW players and 4 new clubs that have no idea where their season is, how long it is, and what their terms and conditions are or who they can sign, how would you consider this situation fair and respectful? All players and all clubs need certainty and clarity. We have 3 months until the end of the term. It's time to get into the deal and negotiate a fair and reasonable CBA for all parties. So they haven't even begun negotiations. This was the 10th of August, so that's a couple of weeks ago. So maybe it's changed. And not apologies, but just putting out there, maybe in the last few weeks they have begun negotiations, but it's August 10th and we haven't. That's got to be sorted. And
like some of the girls in the NRLW that I've had on my podcast, just talking to them about the situation over the last few years, like the knowledge they get dropped on them about their game at the very last minute and everything, it is bizarre. And these girls are like they're taking 3 or 4 months off their jobs, losing their jobs essentially to go and play footy, and the NRL can't tell them when the ball gets kicked.
And that's the thing. It's like you can understand why the financing around the women's game is taking a bit longer to grow. But communication's not a hard thing. Like show them the respect to at least communicate with them so they can plan their lives and sacrifice to play the game that's, anyway. So hopefully that gets sorted. I'm sure the NRL have their reasons. It's never as simple as the NRL are just sitting there going, nah, stuff them. I'm sure the NRL have their reasons, but hopefully we can sort it out. Speaking of the NRLW, so obviously we don't get I personally don't have the time to watch NRLW and the NRL. I try to watch as much NRLW as I can when I get the time. But the Roosters defeat the Eels 38-16. The Dragons defeat the Titans 26-12, and the Knights defeat the Broncos 32-12. And it was the Knights' first ever game in the NRLW.
The Knights team's going to be a problem too.
Yeah, they look good. Good young six as well with great footwork. Roosters, Sammy Bremner was outstanding in her return. But what I will say is, if you love the NRLW, there's a fun, fresh and footy podcast that you can listen to. These 2 women that that watch the NRLW. They also watch rugby league, like NRL as well. So they break that down, but they go more in depth to the women's game. They watch all the games. So head over to the Fun, Fresh and Footy podcast. These two women, they're massive Bloke fans as well, so they're a part of the community, guys. If you love the NRLW, it's the Fun, Fresh and Footy podcast. Go and listen to that. Also, I think there's a page called, is it NRL Watch?
Yep.
That's all women's game, or a lot of women's game. So at NRL Watch. And then there's also Real Talk Media that covers a lot of the women's stuff. So when we can, we'll try and watch the NRLW, guys. But I think it's actually probably better for the game to give a platform to the women that have podcasts that support this game and enjoy the NRLW, rather than you just getting all your information from us. We've got to try and raise up the other people as well. So that is a Fun, Fresh and Footy podcast. Go and subscribe if you love the NRLW. Even if you just love podcasts, they follow the NRL as well. Now, team of the week. At 1, I had Tedesco. Could have had Latrell, but I just thought if you're beating someone by 72 points, regardless of the opposition, it's pretty incredible. Then I had Moga at 2, Manu at 3, Olam at 4, Ikevalu at 5, Dylan Brown, who was absolutely sensational, Hines, who was absolutely sensational. I had Royce Hunt at 8. I mean, talk about a guy growing into his role. Wow, he's been good. Grant at 9. He was absolutely incredible. Nelson Solomona. Now, he played on the edge, but he was named at 10, so I just named him at front row. Butcher scored 4 freaking tries. I thought Leilua was outstanding for the Cowboys. For Penrith was really good. 14 was Keary. 15 was Crichton. That's Angus Crichton. 16 was Andrew Fafita. I thought he was amazing on the weekend. And 17, I literally couldn't select, so I just put Papali'i, Lane, Young, Tarpane. Seriously.
It's a bit like that this weekend, isn't it?
So hard.
It was hard. Yeah, it was tough. Mine's kind of similar. I had Teddy at fullback. I had Tau on the wing. So good to see him finally playing back-to-back games of football. Other wing, I had Ikevalu. Centres, I had Olam. And I had Val Holmes. I thought for the Cowboys he was exceptional. Dill Brown at 6. We were saying before, he's probably our player of the week. You went Hines. I went Chad Townsend. I thought his game for the Cowboys was fantastic. I had Tapane and Nelson up front, Harry Grant at 9. I had the Roosters back rowers, Angus and Nat Butcher. My 13, I had Jack Bird. I thought for the Dragons, he was very good. Then my bench, I had Api Curacao, Cohen Hess. I had Luke Keary as well. And then I chucked in Hudson Young as well.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many. Like, for example, Leilua and Crichton could definitely squat. Crichton was outstanding on the weekend. So that's the team of the week, guys. Team of the week. Don't forget, guys, head over to budgetsmuggler.com.au. Use the code BLOKE. For whatever you buy, you get a 20% discount. That's only for 7 days. They usually never give discount codes out, but to celebrate the new partnership, they're doing it this time. So budgetsmuggler.com.au, use the code word BLOKE, you get a 20% discount. They've got stuff selling stuff for Father's Day, so presents for Father's Day. Make sure to grab it from budgetsmuggler.com.au. Also, grab a case of Bloke and a Bar from your local. Head over to blokeandabar.com or bloke.shop. We've got a store locator. You put in your postcode. It'll show you the closest stockist. You can even tick a box whether you want the midi or the lager. It will show you each store and what they have. Now, Bloke and a Bar beer, though, the original, is in every single Celebrations bottle-o, every single Porter's liquor, and every single IGA Plus liquor in New South Wales and ACT. And we may have an announcement around the OG Bloke as well coming soon. But every single Celebrations, bottle-o, Porter's liquor, and IGA Plus liquor in New South Wales and ACT. So if you've got a Celebrations or bottle-o around you in New South Wales or ACT, they will stock Bloke and a Bar beer. It's a beautiful beer. Real good beer, guys. If you haven't given it a crack, give her a try. I'm telling you, it's a smooth, easy drinking beer. It's not fruity. It's not hoppy. Very rarely have I had someone try it and say, I don't like it, or it's this or it's that. Like, at the very least, they go, yep, not bad. At the best, they go, fuck, that's a fantastic beer. So give her a crack. It's a beautiful beer. And our Bloke Midi is in every single Liquor Legends in Queensland and New South Wales. Make sure to give it a crack. Which one do you like better, the Midi or the...
Yeah, I like the Midi. I don't know if it's just the new kid on the block or not. But
yeah.
I like it.
It's interesting. It's really interesting because I've got like a 50-50 feedback on it. Like, just had one of my mates try both of them, and he liked the lager. But then I've had other people go, the Midi is beautiful. So, give them a crack. you know what? Buy a 6-pack of each. Decide which one you like better. Now, some news that's just kind of popped up. There's been a push from guys like Gus Gould basically coming out and saying that he feels that James Tamou, 2-week suspension, given the fact that he's had this incredibly long career, hasn't really set a foot wrong or whatever. Maybe lift the ban, maybe be a fine. The Tigers have also come out and they're going to fight the charge. I'll just read Gus's quote so that we get it right. But basically the quote is pushing for... That'll be right. It's not on...
I've got it here if you want me to read it.
I got it here, sorry.
Yeah.
Gus Gould. 2 to 3 week ban for Tamou's outburst is appropriate, but must be discouraged. However, NRL should suspend this penalty due to Tamou's exemplary career. The fact that this incident was totally out of character and there is no chance of reoffending, his immediate remorse and apology was sincere. Guru, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm really torn. I'm obviously always pretty strong on this sort of stuff, and I agree with Gus. It is, from what I've seen, out of character for him. He's never really had any big issues in the past. I think a lot of it comes down to frustration. I don't think he was actually filthy there. I think he's just filthy at his entire situation as a whole at the West Tigers, being dusted by 70 points at the SCG. But for me, you got to be better still. And James has been better for the vast majority of his career. It's a tough one. I don't know if we should let narrative take away from the penalty of this situation, because I do think it is something that we just have to have zero tolerance for. And, it happened with Cheese a couple of weeks ago, and I got a lot of messages saying that I overreacted to it. We had an incident with Dane Gagai a couple of weeks ago. We've now had one with James Tamou here. Unfortunately, it is becoming a little bit more common. Maybe it's just a purple patch in our game. I hope it is. But I want to let him off easy because I think there's a good chance that if James Tamou is suspended for 2 weeks, that might be the end of his career, realistically. So I'd hate to see for a fantastic career like his to end this way. And then part of me also says I don't want to go lean in on this sort of stuff. So I'm actually very keen to hear your thoughts. I'm torn.
Yeah, look, I think it's a tough one because he does want to play next year. So if this was his last year, I think the best case would be you downgrade it to 1 game suspension and you give him your swan song. I totally get where you're coming from. We cannot just be like, oh, well, because, he's a veteran player and he doesn't do anything wrong, we let it go and whatever. But to think of all he's given the game, all the great things he's done, I don't even think guys like Cheese would hold it again. I don't even think Cheese would be sitting there going, you know what, that's bullshit. I got suspended. I think even Cheese would be like, you know what, as a veteran of the game, he deserves that last send-off. And so it's a tough one. If he's going around and playing next year, let's say he is going to play next year, 100%, I've got no leniency. And that's not because I don't like James Tamou. I think he's been a stalwart of the game. He's carried himself so incredibly well. But if this is to be his last couple of games in the NRL, I think that we owe it to him, I think, as a game to go, you know what, you get suspended for 1 game and then we give you that last final game to go out on your terms, because I think that it would be a travesty for this bloke for it to be his last NRL game after how long he's been such a good role model for so many young kids, so many young players, been a big part of so many clubs' success. I think we owe it to him. So it just depends, really.
Mate, that's what I don't disagree with anything you just said. But there is obviously the bigger picture to it that, you can argue both sides to it. I'm keen to see how the NRL does. And you're right, if he was playing next year, it is a completely different situation.
The way I see it is this, okay, it's like, do you really think him being banned for an extra game sends a much different message from him being banned 1 game? Whereas, so what do you gain by suspending him for 2 weeks? Not really that much. What do you lose by suspending him for 2 weeks? You lose the opportunity of this guy's life. This is everything he's ever done in his life, culminating to his final game. He'll be devastated for years to come. Or the game could go, you know what? Let's give something back. Okay, you did wrong by the game by doing what you did. I get it, 100%. Let's, instead of going 2 weeks, let's go a week. Let's go a fine. Let's go a campaign of him saying about refs. Let's do all that shit.
That's the way to do it. Yes.
Let's use this as an opportunity, as a teaching moment, whilst also giving him his last game. Because look, right now it looks like he's probably not going to get picked up by another club, and I think he's not going to go over and play Super League. So it's probably going to be his last game. Now, again, if it isn't his last game, I think that he should actually absolutely serve the punishment. If he's going to play for another club, I don't get the whole he's been a great role model for the last whatever. Yeah, for sure, but that doesn't. We saw what we saw.
Yeah.
It happened. So yeah, it honestly, it all depends.
It's one of those situations that I think whichever way the NRL goes, to be honest with you, I'll be happy. I see both sides of it. Ideally, I would love to see him play another game, but if they do decide to take a hard stand on this stuff, I also wouldn't push back on it. From the NRL.
See, if it's his last game, I'll be upset. I think that's really unfair. The last game, what he said, the ref was incompetent. You can't do that, but to rob this bloke of a last game when you can suspend him for a week and fine him massively. There are other ways. There are other ways to send the message. There are other ways to send the message. The message does not get louder, or maybe it does. Maybe it does get louder if he gets suspended for 2 games because you're like, oh, wow, this guy literally just got robbed of his last game ever. But I think there can be a middle ground here. I really do. He has literally not put a foot wrong for how many years now. But I agree with you. If he is going to play on next year, and that's the tough thing. The NRL don't know. They don't know if he is or he isn't. He might get a contract in the off season.
Yeah.
If he is, then I think no, he should serve his suspension.
So shit, we're talking about it. Shouldn't be this way. It's
It sucks that if it is his last few games that we're talking about it for sure,
it's awful.
because his career doesn't deserve this kind of shadow on it at all. So really interesting. I can understand if the NRL do the two weeks and they come down hard on it. I can understand, but yeah, for me, it truly all just depends. Is it his last game? If it is, I would hate for that. Think about it. Not only did he get sent off, they lost by 72 points. They got 72 points put on them.
Yeah, it's one of the worst ways to finish.
Literally the worst.
So,
Very few worse ways to go out. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I can understand why the NRL is in a tough spot as well. So, what I will say though is I can understand whatever decision they make. I can understand why they made a decision. I just hope that if it is his last game, they can come to a middle ground and, I always believe situations like this, you're going to get more bang for buck by getting them to go out and do some kind of video, some kind of content about refs or whatever. But
that's why we need the beer cup as well.
That's why we need the beer cup. Absolutely.
Have another 4 games up his sleeve.
Now on to the games. Rabbitohs versus Panthers, an absolutely enthralling game. Such a good game because, for most of you, you're not sitting there forgetting that Cleary, Fisher, Harris, and Luai are out, but you're almost not noticing it because the quality is so high. That's how good Panthers are at the moment. Rabbitohs had 5 line breaks in the first 20 minutes. Panthers had 0. So this is a really actually, you know what? Before we get into this game, we'll talk about it. Last couple of weeks, there was I think it's Julia Roberts. Is that her name? Julia Robertson in the women's game.
I believe so. Yeah.
So she had some comments from some Derricks, having a go at her because she was muscly or whatever, and then she posted on her social media. And then we have the Paulo situation as well. Guys, if you follow Bloke and Bloke, please, I understand you're passionate. I understand you're angry. You can criticise a player. You can say this player didn't play well. You can say this player made a terrible error. This player, you could even say this player, I don't think is a first grader. You can say all of that stuff. That is fair criticism from a fan. And players understand they get paid a lot of money for that added pressure. But this ad hominem, nonsense, insulting people, death threats, it's just pathetic. It's pathetic. And the thing is that eventually the clubs are going to find out who it is and you're going to get punished for it. And also, the fans get punished for it because eventually players aren't going to interact with you. They're not going to put posts up. They're not going to deal with anything. They're going to go, you know what? I just want to play footy. That's all I want to do. So please, if you part of this community. There is nothing wrong with criticising a player's performance. There is nothing wrong at all with that. But any insults, all this nonsense about, women and muscles, like, grow up. Like, how old are you? What are you talking about? Like, that's just nonsense. Keep it to yourself. Just keep it to yourself. Just don't say it. Just don't comment it. And then death threats, like a joke. Please, we can have a good world where players interact with fans, but it's not going to happen if we have stuff like this. I don't know if you want to say anything about it.
Oh,
Guru?
no, I find it fucking unbelievable that we had, last week in rugby league, which was, with Paul Green, a terrible situation, and everyone was so positive about mental health. Then you got people slipping into DMs like this. Like, it's so backwards. Mate, as you know, I used to be a teacher, and like, you deal with kids saying this sort of shit to each other.
Yeah.
And they don't understand how far it goes.
Yeah.
And like, the 10 and 12-year-olds I used to teach, if I found out they were doing this to NRL players, I'd be incredibly disappointed in them.
Yep.
Knowing that there's adults out there doing it, fuck. It's
insane. It's insane. Like, I get it. You're passionate. I get it. Junior, Paulo had a really poor game. Like, he had a really poor game. You can say that. Like, you can say he had a bad game. You don't need to death threats. Like, what are we talking about here? It's fucking insane. And the shit thing is we're talking about a very small amount of Derricks, and the most fans are pretty good. Most fans, they love their footy. They get upset, then they move on. I promise you, the end result of this, if this continues, I promise your players are just going to disconnect, and you're barely going to be able to get near them. And the problem with that is rugby league is a working class game. That's what makes it so beautiful, is that these players are from the same areas that we're from. They grew up in the same places we grew up, but eventually they're going to be totally removed from us. I don't know if you had anything to say about it, Matty, being a Rabbitohs fan.
Yeah, nothing more to add on your YouTube. But the thing I don't understand is, yes, Paulo had a bad game, and maybe you're upset that you don't think he deserved his spot in the team or whatever. But like, if that's the case, why are you directing your anger at him? Like, he didn't pick himself in the team and have a bad game on purpose. It's just as disgraceful as it is, but that aside, it's pointless. It just makes no sense. I don't know. And you know what? Now his confidence is going to be absolutely sure. Like, you're not doing him any favors if you're a South fan. Like, firstly, if you've bet on the game and you're abusing because of that, you're a fuckwit. But if you're a South fan and you do that, you're not doing yourself, your team, him, or anyone any favors. Yeah. It makes no sense.
And like, if you find yourself in that moment where you want to say something mean, you have to realize all you're doing is trying to take your anger out on another person. It actually has nothing to do with them. Like, again, I was sitting there going, wow, Paulo had a really poor game. We're going to talk about it. There's nothing wrong with that. He's a professional athlete. You can critique his game. There's nothing wrong with that. But death threats is disgraceful. It is disgraceful. Saying this stuff online to women, like, come on, man. Like, it's childish. It's childish nonsense. So anyway, and what's shit is that most people listening right now, this doesn't apply to you. This doesn't apply to you. But if there are a small amount of people that you've said something that you probably shouldn't have, just remember, like, these are people. They're people. They really are. And that's not to be like, oh, poor rich sports athlete. I'm not on that boat at all. You can criticise these people. That's why they get paid the big bucks. They added pressure. We sit here and say players play poorly every single week. So it's just a way you go about it.
It's common decency.
Yeah.
And as you said, the players, they will start to disassociate with fans and all that. Mate, like, I won't say who the player was, but on the weekend, someone showed me a DM they had with a player 2 years ago where their cricket team was short on the Sunday, and they messaged him on the Friday and said, just randomly, they weren't following each other, and said, any chance you want to come play cricket on Sunday? This was during the off-season. The player responded and said yes, and then on the Sunday morning messaged again and said, hey, are we still on, mate? Came and played cricket with them. It was a kangaroo, by the way.
Wow.
Came down and played cricket with them that weekend, and that's like, if we fans keep, and it's a small minority,
it's a small minority.
If they keep going down this path, all those things will be cut off. The amount of players that do all these extra things for fans that you guys never see, where they are doing, videos, or they're popping into hospitals, or they're popping to trainings, or whatever it might be, you'll just lose it all.
You'll lose it 100%. Like, and look, and another thing as well is, like, you can watch a footy game, say whatever you want between your mates. Say whatever you want, obviously within reason. Don't but you can have your banter and be like, he's shit or whatever. That doesn't matter because that's in your own private home. Say whatever you want. It's just about the saying it to them, tagging them in things and all that kind of stuff. If you've got a mate that's thinking about it, just give him a little tap. And just like, mate, don't worry about it. Let's have a laugh between each other. Let's take the piss out of X-player between each other. That's totally fine because the player doesn't know about it. It's your own private. You can say whatever you want privately to each other. It's just the directed stuff like the death threats and the completely pointless insults. Just leave it. And look, again, there's a difference between a bit of banter, like people, call me the beak and talk about like all that stuff. That's a bit of banter, a bit of fun. There's a big difference between that and insults. And we all know the line, guys. We all know where that line is. And I'm sorry for people that had to listen to that are all great, but unfortunately we just got to keep reinforcing this message. So hopefully one day players are just fully involved with the community and, there's always going to be dickheads out there, but hopefully we can reduce the amount of times this happens. Now, Rabbitohs Panthers. Rabbitohs had this game to win. It was right there. And, we just talked about all that situation. With all that being said, unfortunately, Paulo, as a professional, he dropped a few balls. He bombed a few tries. They probably win the match if he does finish those tries. But in saying all of that, they also had other opportunities to win the match. So it wasn't just his opportunity to win the match. There were other ones to do as well. I think most of us would feel the same. We probably would have picked Isaac Thompson anyway in that wing position. I was surprised that he wasn't picked.
He was injured.
He was injured? That makes sense. Okay. Well then, basically, who else have they got?
Yeah, makes complete sense. Yeah.
Because when I thought it was crazy Thompson wasn't selected. I think he's been outstanding. So if he's injured, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, poor game from Junior Paulo, but I'm not Jaxson Paulo, Junior Paulo. Sorry, sorry, Jackson. But there were other opportunities to win. They really were. So, look, it's really a weird one for me with the Rabbitohs because you can look at it in one way. I thought they were really good. I thought they were really, really good. I thought they created a bunch of opportunities, 5 line breaks to 0 in the first 20 minutes. But then you could look on the other side of things and go, well, they're actually missing Cleary, Luai, and Fisher-Harris. Where do you land on it?
Mate, I agree with what you just said.
I don't know how to look at it.
South Sydney were really good. Penrith are really fucking good, though.
Yeah.
As a system, their next man up mentality is just crazy. For years upon years, it's always been the Melbourne Storm that have been this side. It, without a doubt, is the Panthers now.
And this is what I meant a few weeks ago. There was some people that had an issue with it. Well, they had issue with it after they lost. But I said, they're almost still favourites without Cleary and...
Mate, when I checked the odds and they weren't favourites, respectfully, Matty, I was surprised.
Yeah, I picked them to win.
Was.
I picked them to win.
I think they were $2.30. I thought that was ridiculous.
And so, what happened? So we said that and we said, look, they're almost famous, if not still favourites to win, after they had that great win without Cleary and Luai. And then they lost against the Storm and there were a few comments going, they're still favourites to win now. And again, until I see some more games where maybe they peter off a bit, I think they're that good that side absolutely has a chance to win the premiership without Luai and Cleary. Absolutely. Are they favourites? Maybe, but I think that there's still a premiership threat without Luai and Cleary. That's how incredible this side is. That's how incredible.
I would be so confident that team at least makes a prelim.
At least makes it 100%.
Which is what the Melbourne Storm team that won 19 in a row did last year.
Yeah, which is amazing. This Penrith outfit is just whatever they've done out there. I feel like we speak about it every week, but I want to know. It's happened so quick.
Yeah,
they're unstoppable. They're so dominant. They just hang in games. When you look at the amount of opportunities Rabbitohs had, and still the Penrith just hung in. And granted, it was some errors that most other wingers or whatever probably won't make that error. But again, they still put themselves in the position for that to happen. They could have not been in the game with 3 minutes to go. So yeah, the Panthers are just looking super without Fisher-Harris as well. Wow.
And I mean, I feel like we talk about it every single week for the last 2.5 years. The stocks of Dylan Edwards.
Oh mate.
I every few weeks I sit around and I go, he's not overrated. He's not underrated anymore. Then he plays a game and I'm like, then he misses a game and then comes back. I'm like, you know what? Fuck, maybe he is still underrated.
Yeah, mate, he is the glue to that team.
It's I mean, you even have a look at, and I heard someone say, I'm not sure if it was you or who it was, but I heard someone say during the week, which is a really good point, like, against the Melbourne Storm, they didn't score any points, but the 16 they conceded, like, the Brandon Smith try, like, I have not seen a team score a try like that on the Panthers in a very, very long time. And then Edwards comes back in and, like, mate, I thought, we'll talk about him later, but I thought some of the balls that Latrell threw that led to nothing, just because their cover defence was so good, like, Latrell was throwing 10 out of 10 balls that would catch out every other team in this competition. Penrith just find a way to scramble and make it work. And, you can probably talk more about it to people, but, like, just how important your fullback is communication-wise.
Oh, it's one of the most underrated parts of Billy Slater's game.
I think it is the most underrated part.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think that Billy Slater's fitness is one of his most underrated. Like, people don't often talk about fitness as a weapon. Fitness is a weapon. Tedesco's fitness is his biggest weapon because he's constantly it's just, anyway, we'll get back to Dylan Edwards. No, you're totally right, because teams have become so slick that if you just once put one short man on a wrong side, they're going to nail you. Matter of fact, that's the team's whole goal, is to get the reason why teams, some fans may ask yourself, why do they get to the tram line, they call it, or like 20 metres in? They get to these vague spots because they want the defence to go, it's just a little bit too big for three people, but we might be able to get away with three people on the short side, and then we can stack the long side, and then boom, before you know it, they go down the short side with three there. And then they, the other side of it is they get to the middle and they put shape on both sides and they go, do we need to load one side? Do we not? And the hardest thing about the middle of the field is that, like, it is the attacking side has the most opportunity to do what they want. So you just don't know what's going to come at you. And if you don't have a fullback putting the right numbers on the right, because, like, not only is he getting numbers correct, he's making sure the ruck is sorted. Then he's making sure that he's got the right numbers on the left side. He's also, if you've got a guy like Billy Slater, for example, at the back, he can maybe identify, like, I think that they may be, like, looking like they're going on this left side, but I reckon there's a shot happening on this other, the right side, the defender's right. And really good fullbacks do that. Really good fullbacks do that. And you notice it when you've got rookie fullbacks in there, all of a sudden the defense is a bit not as strong.
Yeah. And like, just being a fullback and working out that 10-man split and how it's going to work each time.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Massively.
Like, you see the third man in the Penrith tackle every single time. He stands up, and as he's walking back, you can see him looking at Dill.
Yeah, because
tell me where to go.
And he's always
where
doing
do you
these
know
ones.
that I need to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so, and I mean, if you get out, I had some mates that were at the South Penrith game the other night, and the first thing they said to me was, "Fuck, you can hear Dill the entire time."
Yeah, wow. Mate.
And that was the same as Billy. I remember when I used to go and watch him, like whenever he used to play at the SFS during the season, they weren't a heap of people there. Just listening to him.
Yeah, constant.
It just doesn't stop. It must be exhausting just talking though.
Oh, mate. Absolutely. Like, it is so crucial. Like, Dylan Edwards, he's just so impressive. I'm stoked for him that he's finally getting a bit of appreciation. Like, I think he is becoming more. There's more and more people going, you know what, he might be a smoky for Dally M. I still think Hines will probably pip him, but he was on 13. I think Hines was on about 16 when they went behind closed doors, and I'd have to say Edwards has probably been Penrith's best all year.
I mean, wasn't it round 7? Isaiah Yeo had one man of the match in 6 out of 7, and now we're talking about Dylan Edwards.
Yeah.
Potentially, like, it's crazy what he's achieved this year. And, we come in here every single week. I've got it in my notes, you've got it in your notes, when a fullback was caught out of position. When have you ever written Dylan Edwards caught out of position? Never. It never happens.
Literally
and he puts himself in the front line all the time.
Yep.
But then he's on his bike straight away, just knowing where the ball's going to be and where he needs to be. He's incredible.
Which team? I mean, we'll keep talking about Penrith. Do you, like, it's almost, I sit here and I go, this team, it's scary to think of Cleary and Luai coming back and Fish Harris. It's almost like, fuck, who's going to beat this team? But obviously teams can beat them because, the Eels beat them and, Storm has taken it to them. And so teams can, but it's almost like, I don't know what the kind of explanation would be, but it's not you don't know what you got till it's gone, but it's provided us this, like, this team, like, put it this way, let's say you were outside looking in and that was the team that they assembled for the season. And then they went out and bought both Origin halves and arguably the best prop in the comp. you'd go, that team's literally never going to lose.
Yep.
And that's who they have coming back into their side, is both Origin halves and arguably the best prop in the game.
And along with him being the best prop, he's the alpha in this team.
Yeah. He's one of the alphas in the comp.
Yeah, in the comp, but by far and away in this team. Like, I would say Isaiah Yeo's probably the leader of this pack, but he's the alpha in it.
Yeah.
And, there's a fair argument that that's almost more important. And, you're like, Cleary and the like, we don't need to tell you that they're going to be impressive when they come back, but just for some context, like if you have a look at the South Sydney outside backs and the amount of touches they had, AJ had 15, Isaiah Tass had 20, Campbell Graham 22, Jaxson Paulo 19. So they're averaging about 20 touches, right? The Panthers, their touches, Brian Toto got 19. Outside of that, they were all below 15.
Wow.
So, like, you can see that, yes, Sean O'Sullivan and Jamin Salmon are doing a good job, but it's not as smooth as it usually is.
Yeah.
Their strike weapons, and, I don't have it in front of me, all the numbers, but I would assume the vast majority of those touches are coming out of their own half. There was a lot of times where Jamin Salmon, he got tackled a lot of time with the ball in hand, which I'm completely fine with.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't on.
Yep.
He's just happy to take that hit. But when you've got Cleary in the way there, and then all of a sudden Tungo, May, Brian Toto, Stephen Crichton are getting clean ball,
Yep.
they're going to be such a handful.
Oh, mate.
Pair that with the best, like, is it the best defence we've seen?
The Panthers.
Yeah.
It's some of the best. Like, outside of, like, peak Storm where you literally couldn't store. Even the Dragons 2010 was pretty amazing.
Yeah, Dragons 2010's fair.
Yeah. Roosters back-to-back year, they were pretty incredible.
Like, this team, like South Sydney are humming at the moment.
Yeah.
They've got some of the best attacking players in rugby league as it stands right now. 22 points. Like, I would say Penrith would be so disappointed with that.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
Yeah. Look, it's just what they've got going out there is incredible. And they're not a powerhouse as in, like, they are a powerhouse, but I can't see a future. And look, footy is... Look at the Storm.
Yep.
A week's a long time in footy, so imagine a year. But I'm trying to imagine a future where where Penrith don't win 2 or 3 comps in the next 10 years.
Well, Matty Johns said a few weeks ago that he thinks they'll win 4 in the next 10, I think he said.
Yeah.
And the comments were just unbelievable. And I was sitting there going, are you for real? Have you seen this team? We talk about all these superstars every week. They're 25 years old.
Yeah, and they locked the comp up. Minor prems like pretty much 6 weeks to go.
And
pretty
then,
much.
like we always talk about how good their attack is. They attacked dreadfully in the finals last year.
Yeah.
They still won it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a scary, scary prospect. And it's really exciting. It's actually great for rugby league because obviously, Penrith and Western Sydney is like a heartland of rugby league. And I think it's something that's been missing for quite a while. It's like for a bit there when Queensland went on their dominant run, I think a lot of people look to Brisbane and kind of Queensland as like the heart kind of thing because like Broncos were going well, Cowboys were going well. And like I think the resurgence of Penrith is actually really good for rugby league because it's got this huge Greater Western Sydney that has 2 million people in it. Like it's important that the heartlands have sides that are up top, because obviously it's 2 million people are living there. It's great for our game.
That's the other thing. Like for the last 15 years, everyone has wanted to play for the Melbourne Storm. None of these people are from Melbourne. Like there's a tie to the club, but it's if you're a kid growing up in Western Sydney and you've watched Luai and Nath and these guys come through that exact system all the way through, like I just think it'd mean so much more to you.
Yeah, well that's I've said it a few times, but the scariest thing about the Penrith situation right now is Melbourne did what they did in a non-footy town. And so that's what makes it arguably the most impressive thing we've ever seen in rugby league because they went down to Melbourne. Barely anyone plays rugby league. No, barely anyone supports it. Obviously, they got a decent fan base, but you understand that's because they've won so much. Penrith Panthers are setting the same standards that Storm set, but they have the biggest rugby league nursery in the country. That's the scary thing. Imagine Melbourne Storm in Brisbane.
Yeah.
Or Western Sydney.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's like Brisbane of the early 2000s. Like we're just get any player they wanted.
Yeah.
It's
and I would argue just with social media and everything the way it is and the way that the Panthers do social media and their players do that, I think they're even more connected to their fans than any team has ever been.
Put it this way, Nathan Cleary is Joey Johns to a lot of young
He
kids.
is, and that sounds crazy to us.
Yeah, to us.
But he is.
He is. It's really, again, we are not saying that he has had the career Joey has or whatever. But Nathan Cleary to Western Sydney is Joey Johns, just like Joey was to the Newcastle Knights.
Just like
community.
Wally was to my dad. And I always sit there and go, are you for real?
Yeah.
How could you have Wally over Joey?
Yeah. It's that, and that's
going to be the
Nathan
same
is.
in 20 years' time.
Absolutely. The next young guy or girl, because like eventually like there'll be a young guy or girl that creates content that will come up, like take over me, you know what I mean? In the sense of like they'll create their own thing and they'll be appealing to the next generation because I'll be a little bit older. They'll be talking about Nathan the way we talk about Joey, the way we talk about Cam Smith, the way we talk about all those guys. And so the crazy thing is it's in the heartland of rugby league. So yeah, I'm excited. I love the fresh air that Penrith have brought into this competition. I know that they've got a bigger swagger and they're different and they got the boombox and some people don't like that or whatever. I personally like it. I think it's the energy the game needed. Now, look, would it piss me off if I was still playing and they were doing that stuff? Yeah, sure it would. Like, but in saying that, when I was playing, I didn't like most teams. So it's not like, it's not, like, it's just the way it is. You're playing rugby league.
And I think we also forget, like, if you were a huge fan of rugby league in the 70s and 80s, like Peter Sterling was your halfback, yeah? All of a sudden, Joey comes along and, there's games where he dyes his hair red to play footy. Like, tell me then that those blokes then would have gone, what is this fucking clown doing?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
It's the equivalent of Nath dancing on his phone.
Yeah.
It's the next generation. And there'll be stuff that we have got used to with Nath that in 20 years' time, Joe Blow will be doing it as the superstar of the game. We'll sit there and go, what the fuck is he doing?
It's the one thing that I always, like when I was younger, I was like, and I'm sure everyone kind of promises themselves this, but I'm like, when I get older, I'm never going to hate on the next generation. Yeah. And I think I've been pretty successful at it. Like when I see the boys on TikToks and that, I think it's funny. Like it's would I ever do it? No, personally, I would never, get up and dance on TikTok. But I also think fucking good on you boys. Like that's your generation and you guys find that fun and entertaining. Like great. Yeah. I'm there for it. I think it's great for the game. It means that we're identifying with the next generation. So the Penrith thing, I think what's also really interesting if you're a deeper thinker or whatever, what's really interesting about the Penny Panthers is they've proven that there are more than one ways to get this done, to get the premiership, to win the comp, the minor premierships. For how many years have we been basically saying it's the Storm? How the Storm do it? Coaches go to all different places and they go, we need to copy the Storm. We need to copy the Storm. And don't get me wrong, like the Storm. We'll get to the Storm because I personally think that they are one of the greatest sporting organisations the country has ever seen. Seriously. But like the Penrith Panthers have proven, no, actually, you know what? You can be a bit leery, and there's a way to balance that kind of character that they brought in. So, Penny Panthers fans, as we do every single week, be happy. It's incredible. It's amazing, and it's exciting to watch. It's exciting to watch. Now, on to the Rabbitohs. I am so torn what to take away from this game. I'm so torn. Because on one hand, I go, great performance. They're a premiership threat. I genuinely think that you can lock in, like there's a part of me that says you can lock in the Rabbitohs for premiership challenges. But then there's another part of me that goes, well, hang on a sec. They just played them without three of their best players. So I don't know where I stand with this. I think I'm leaning more towards the Rabbitohs are a genuine premiership threat.
Yeah, it's... When I think about premiership threats now, I'm also thinking, who are they going to play in the grand final? That's sort of becoming my mindset, which is dangerous because that was my mindset with the Melbourne Storm last year, as we've said a few times. But fuck, South Sydney are entertaining at the moment.
Oh my God. Probably the most entertaining in the comp right now.
I think they are. Yeah. Whether you love them, hate them, I don't care. They're entertaining.
Mate, Latrell, he's got to have the silkiest hands we've ever seen for a big fella.
Some of those passes he was throwing the other night, we were talking about it, and he's obviously compared to GI quite a bit. Like GI was never half this good with his hands.
Yeah, like GI still has the much better resume and all of that. I'd still say GI is the greatest outside back of all time, like as in can play multiple positions. But I don't think he was this silky with his hands
ever.
Like he was solid, and I think what did he win? Did he win a Clive Churchill at 6?
Yeah, he won a Clive at 6.
But I don't think he was this silky.
That was brute power at 6. That was.
And that's what's scary with Latrell is like this guy. I still don't think he's even close to his potential.
I remember when he moved to fullback a couple of years ago, I thought, okay, he's going to be a run first, occasionally pass guy. I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah, he barely runs. Like, he silkiest hands in the game. Like, matter of fact, I'd go as far as say he might be the best ball playing fullback in the comp.
Yeah, we spoke about this the other day, and I was talking to one of my mates, and we sort of settled on, like, he's got better hands than Slater. He's got silkier hands than Slater. It's literally, I think, Hayne at his absolute best, and Latrell, just solely for their hands and what they can do.
But like right now, I think he's the best ball playing fullback in the comp. And I know it sounds crazy when you hear it. You're like, what? No. But then you go, show me another fullback as silky as him right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And
he's making breaks and throwing like 20-metre balls to his winger, left to right. And then he'll do it on his right. Like,
and he turns 3-on-3s into 3-on-2s just with the timing of it. That's the key to it all. It's the timing of when he throws the ball. And you can't coach that. You can't teach it. Latrell's just got it.
And like, even the one where he looked like he had a 3-on-2 and it was like, you know what? In a split second, he went from a ball player to a ball runner and just drops the ball like that. And Cody, what about Cody's instincts?
Yeah.
I truly believe there's not many halves that would have picked
clued
up
on in that
what was
moment.
happening.
Yeah.
How Cody got from 2 or 3 metres away to right on his hip in a split second, the connection that they have is honestly, you can't put a price on it.
Cody's got a sixth sense for just what's going to happen.
He must have.
And I don't think he could explain it to you.
Yeah.
He just knows where the ball, like, Matty, there was a try last year that you scored in their finals run where I think it was Damien Cook like kicked it infield, and he kicked it infield like 15, 20 metres, and Cody Walker was just there. And I watched on the replay on the wide shot. He got knocked over at the start.
I remember this one.
And he just ran at the sticks. He just knew there was going to be something here. The fullback had come across, they kick infield, and he just put himself there.
He literally got knocked to the ground.
Yeah.
Looked like he was injured, and then he just got up and he just started running towards the stick.
He just made a beeline to no man's land, knowing that's where the ball would end up.
Yeah.
Just on Trell, he's played half the season and he's leading the comp in line break assists.
Fuck. Mate.
And like, that's where I personally think, like, you know, there's the whole, he doesn't run for enough metres, he doesn't do this, doesn't do that. Like, we need to stop expecting Latrell to be Tedesco.
Yeah.
It's just, like, I'm sorry, I love Dylan Edwards. Why doesn't he have the same try assist as Latrell? Like, no, I don't hear anyone going heavy on Dylan Edwards because he doesn't have the same assets as Latrell.
It's
But
this meter thing.
It's
eh?
bullshit.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like, because Tedesco is one of the greatest fullbacks we've ever seen. There's no denying that. If you don't mirror that, you're not the in flavour.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a very similar. I remember when Tamou became the 13, and if you didn't mirror that, you weren't a 13. And so I think a lot of people are going, look, if you're a fullback and you don't make 250 metres, you're not a good fullback. And I think Latrell, doing what Latrell does, is just flipping the narrative on its head and going, no, there's actually more ways to play it, because for every metre he doesn't make, he's creating metres for other people. Like, for every metre he doesn't make, he's creating an extra metre for another player to get through and score a try. Like, his line break assist is the best in the comp. So what would you rather, the most metres in the comp or the most line break assists in the comp? There's an argument to be said. I'd rather more line break assists. Again, I'm not saying that he's better than Tedesco right now. I'm just putting it out there.
4 line break assists and 2 try assists against the Penrith Panthers in a loss.
The best defensive team in the comp.
It's I mean, like, run with your meters narrative all you want, and like we're actually me, Matty and Tim were talking last week. Like, South Sydney. Now that I think about it, how you managed to get to that grand final last year with your back 3, none of them are noted meter makers.
Mate, like, amazing.
Teams can play differently.
Yeah.
You all don't have to be cookie cutter. We do this exact thing. We copy this team. I love that South Sydney's playing their own game, doing their own thing, and they're being successful.
Yep. Agreed. Totally agree. Alex Johnston scores another couple of tries.
Shocked me.
Oh, my God. Look, what I'm a big fan of, though, I thought the forward pack for the Rabbitohs, it's just gone from strength to strength. I think Keon and Jai Arrow have been really underrated this year. I think Keon's probably getting a bit of love. I think Jai Arrow's been outstanding this year for him.
Great.
I think he's been so good for the Rabbitohs. And Jai Arrow's a really weird one. I almost feel like we take for granted what he does. It's kind of like, we don't put him in the same breath as the tippity top of back rowers, but he performs every single week, and he delivers every single week, especially this year. I think he's been outstanding. Like, he did 122 metres, 41 tackles. Like, that is amazing.
And I thought last year, Matty, you can probably talk more. I thought in your final series last year, I thought he was your best forward. Like, you guys would have been in trouble without him, I thought, last year.
I think Arrow as well, because you're right, because he did so much work at the Titans, everyone kind of just expected it. But like, he now plays on an edge and just pulls his socks up and sometimes makes 2 runs a set. Always. Yeah. He's such a hard worker, and he's always making effective meters. Yeah,
it's just weird how he doesn't get. Like, everyone loves him, but you know what I mean? It's just not that love that a lot of people, not love, sorry, that I guess attention that some of the back rowers get.
But inside, like, I think also, like, the game, like, I remember like 15 years ago when you were watching a game of footy, like, you wouldn't then go to the website and check the stats for the game.
Yeah, it's
whereas people do now. And Jai Arrow's stats are never bad, but they're never as good as they were at the Gold Coast Titans, where he was having to make 60 tackles and 25
Remember
runs.
when he played the Sharks against when he was in the Titans? He ran for like 277 metres or some shit.
He'd look up and they lost 28-40.
Yeah.
Like, oh, fuck, okay.
It probably can't help as well that, like, as much work as Arrow does, he doesn't score tries, doesn't make line breaks. And then the other back rowers are Cam Murray. Well, Cam Murray's the lock, and Kormatungi's the other.
And Keelan's like a bit flashier, and I really love what Keelan's done this year. I think he had one error, that I was almost like, I gave him a huge rap last week and he's come out. But at Keelan, for me, he actually it's interesting because after we spoke about him, I think it was last week, they interviewed him or something. And he basically come out and said, like, I've gone from a player that kind of just rocked up and did my job to I feel like I've got a senior role in this kind of forward pack. It's my job to lead from the front. Totola, solid. I'm really torn on this. I don't think it's bad for the Rabbitohs at all. I don't. But they definitely should have won the game. They definitely should have won the game. I do think, and look, I know he's going through a really tough time. The thing is anyone that's listened to this podcast since the beginning of the year, we've had our question marks around Paulo on the edge there. We think that he's a bit green. You can see the talent. He's a big, strong, fast player. He played really good last year in the final series. I thought he was really good. Now, obviously, Thompson's injured, but I do think that Paulo could benefit from maybe a few going back to reserve grade, just getting his confidence back a little bit.
Yep.
Because that's all of that is all the errors that he made are either confidence or concentration. They're not ability. He's got ability. It's all there for everyone to see. He's really marketable as well. He's a good-looking young kid. He's got everything that you would want from a winger. I just think he might need a little bit more time in New South Wales Cup. Tear it up and then come back. He's still young.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Happens to a lot of guys. So be it. I think it'll be really good for him.
Yeah, get his confidence back. He'll kill it in New South Wales Cup. Bring him back in as he gets a bit older.
Yeah. Tell me, like, Isaiah Tass wouldn't be the same player he is now if he wouldn't have played a heap of Reggies this year.
And I think Isaiah Tass has been so good.
Yeah, and
he came in and played terrible that first game.
He was awful when he started. I talked him up all preseason. I was devastated the first 3 weeks.
Yeah,
it just takes time.
Takes time.
Yeah. And I think that Jaxson, I think he also set himself a pretty high bar last year.
Yeah, because he went so well.
Yeah.
You got the master coach there and everything
Isn't
like that.
Isn't it crazy that we're talking about this team like this who lost Adam Reynolds, Dane Gagai and Wayne Bennett? They should be a tyre fire.
Like, honestly, it should be a shit fight, but they're getting better and better each week.
Just on Barlow, looking more, I know you guys are talking long-term in Reggie's, but just looking short-term, the only problem is South have a bye next week and they're not making the finals. South have no more reserve grade this year. So if Jaxson Paulo is called upon to play in the finals, his last game is going to be the game he played last week, which could be a problem.
It sucks, but I think unless Isaac Thompson is still injured, I think he's probably still the best option there for them.
It sounded like it was just a one. Have you heard anything about Tom? It sounded like it was a
there wasn't much talk about it. I didn't actually realise until about Thursday, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Yeah, look, if they've got no one else, they've give him another crack, get him confident. Yeah, I have faith in him that he can bounce back for sure.
Yeah, and I've seen much better players than him have much worse games. Hodjo, for example.
Mate.
Good God.
You could seriously... Yeah. Every single great player has had a Barry Crocker. It happens. So, Campbell Graham, solid as always. Fuck. He is just so solid, man. And you know what I feel bad with Campbell Graham is like, I just feel like he's going to go through his whole career never getting the appreciation that he gets. Like, he ran for 166 metres. Like, as a centre, that's tough. And he does that every single week.
Is that his first game back too?
Yeah. What did he fracture his eye?
His cheekbone.
Cheekbone?
So he's out for like 6 or 8 weeks.
So he's out 6 or 8 weeks. First game back runs for 166 metres. Matter of fact,
He came second in their post contact of the entire team, not the backs.
he topped their metres. He ran for the most metres out of any player in their team. In his first game back from a broken eye socket. Fuck. Oh, was it eye socket or jaw? Sorry.
Fractured cheekbone.
Cheekbone.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's gutsy. That's so tough. People don't understand the confidence you've got to do that is pretty incredible. Yeah, so great stuff.
And like his edge could have been a nightmare for him too. Obviously marking up against Isaac Tungo, Kikau, Taylor May. Like that was the edge I thought they were going to go at all night. They actually tend to go more down the other side, which surprised me. But I think you're probably going to give a little bit of credit to Campbell Graham defensively, shoring that edge up.
Yep, for sure. Sorry, just quickly back to the Panthers. Shout out to Liam Martin for that last try. Bombed a try. Arguably could have lost the game for his team. Then he comes and he just puts everything into that run.
Mate, shout out for him for playing the game. I thought he was gone the week before.
Like, I thought he was out for at least 4 weeks.
That was... When I saw him named, I honestly thought, fuck, what does Ivan Cleary think he's doing?
Yeah.
Who does he think he's fooling here? I know we moved off Penrith too, but Api Curacao coming off the bench.
I thought it
was great coaching.
Such good coaching. Smart as anything. So I spoke to Cam Smith about the ankle injury. He said actually they've found with a lot of those like rolled ankles, if you get physio into it straight away, apparently it takes away a lot of the pain.
Yeah, right.
So, which I was like, really? He's like, yep. If you get them off, get physio into it straight away, apparently it can be like it looks a lot worse than it is. Because like watching the Martin one last week, it looked like he friggin' nearly broke it. It's amazing how far science and
isn't it crazy? Like when you're walking down the street and your ankle lands in a weird way. My first instinct is fuck. Here goes 5 weeks for me. This is going to be awful. It's crazy how far it's come. Yeah.
I also like I know Tass fell off the tackle, but I want to give him a rap. I thought he put everything into that tackle with Martin. Like I know he got pretty much bumped, but what more could he do there? Maybe go low, but then he could offload. I thought Tass put everything he could into that tackle. Yeah. I don't blame Tass for that. I think that's more field position.
What a nightmare body shape to try and stop from that far out.
Oh, mate.
Liam Martin.
Literally one of the worst. So, cracking game. Absolutely cracking game. Now, onto the Cowboys v. the Warriors. I mean, there's not really going to be much. There's not really going to be much to talk about here. So apparently, Nanai is not pronounced Nanai. Apparently, it's Nana, and I'm not taking the piss here. I think Vossi. So I think the Cowboys. Jeremiah come out and maybe the Cowboys and just said I think he wants it pronounced Nana.
The NRL has to get on the front foot.
I know.
It's not that fucking hard.
It's bizarre to me that they don't. Like,
you have a photo shoot with them at the start of every year. Get them in. Get them pronouncing their own names. Put them up when you announce the teams.
So like even like little things like Vossi and McInnes were calling Suali'i Swali'i. And so I don't know if I'm saying it wrong.
Well, that's like, mate. It's so hard sitting here trying to and like.
Is it actually, people in the comment section? Is it Suali'i or is it Swali'i? Because that's how they were pronouncing it.
And you know, I go to these comment sections sometimes, and I've got 2 and 3 people tell me 2 and 3 different things that tell me they're from the same heritage. Like it's
tough.
It's tough. Get the players to do it at the start of the season. Get them on there. Like they've all got websites on their profiles. Have a little box underneath it. You click it and pronounce it.
Yeah, I personally think after they score a try, the audio should come up. You know, Nana, Jeremiah, Nana.
Yeah, and they've got, you know, you see in the NFL when the teams run out, there's so many of them, they all come down the bottom of the screen and they fold their arms. They say which university they're from.
Yep.
Exact same thing.
They absolutely need. We can't. It's becoming. We have so many young Polynesians coming through. The landscape has changed, and we need to adapt to it. And look, the thing is, I'm from the. I guess I'm very understanding of Aussies getting it wrong. It's not our language. We don't pronounce things the same way. So when we get it wrong, like I'm like, it's kind of like asking, it's like going to Samoa and asking a Samoan person that doesn't speak English to pronounce our words correctly. Like they wouldn't be able to, and you'd be like, I can understand it. And to be clear, like a lot of Polynesians understand that. But if we've got the technology to sort it out, let's sort it out. Like we have the resources. I personally think that at the start of every game, we should get the players pronouncing it the way they want it pronounced, and then boom, sorted. And it's more inclusive. It makes people feel more comfortable. And again, like to be clear, like if you get something wrong, I'm not sitting here going, oh, how dare you get it wrong or whatever. Like to expect someone that only speaks English to know how to pronounce things is crazy. But if we can take if 60%, what is it, like 50 or 60% of the NRL now is Polynesian or Indigenous?
Yeah, and it'll be 70 or 80 in 10
Yeah, so it's just got to, I think we just get on the front foot now.
Yeah, it's an easy solution. It
really
is. Like,
easy.
I've got no problem if the NRL doesn't want to take us up on the beer cup and let Bloke sponsor it, but this one...
Do both.
Do both. But if you're going to do one of them, do this one. It's so simple.
It's pretty simple. It honestly, they have them on media days. Like it wouldn't be that hard. Wouldn't be that hard. Yeah. So anyway, let's get to the Cowboys, Warriors. This is a really hard one to judge because I thought the Cowboys looked incredible, but the Warriors obviously, we don't know. Were they just not into it? Were the Cowboys great? Yeah, but let's just assume that the Warriors played well, but the Cowboys were fantastic. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think most people sort of saw this one. The Warriors had a really good win at home.
This would have been tough knowing the score.
Yeah. Like coming from Mount Smart up to North Queensland, I don't think it gets much harder than that, realistically. Yeah. And you're not coming to North Queensland to play a normal Cowboys side. Like, this is a top shelf Cowboys team in red hot form, playing for a home final in a couple of weeks. So Warriors were pretty average, but I don't read too far into. I don't think it tells me anything about them for next year or anything really. Cowboys, though, I mean, you can only play what's in front of you, and fuck, did they play what was in front of them?
Something that I really noticed, and I thought that the Cowboys are getting better and better at, is their edge line running from their wide running forwards is getting so strong and good. I think it was 2 or 3 tries were scored from just good lines, just good fucking hard lines, and that's all. Like, what's scary about this Cowboys side is it's almost it's essentially the first time that Drinkwater, Robson, Dearden, and Townsend have been together. So this is essentially, we're in year 1 of this combination, this spine. Look how far it's come in a year. Imagine in 2 to 3 to 4 years.
And Drinky wasn't the fullback in the preseason.
No.
So obviously that's long term and it's scary to see where they could be. But the next few weeks are going to be interesting. Dearden got ruled out today for 2 to 4 weeks.
Yep.
That is going to really test his Cowboys side, especially if he's not back for finals week 1.
What do you do? Drinkwater's 6, Amiso 1? I like Drinkwater 1 so much.
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure if they will do that. I think they might keep Drinky at 6 and maybe bring in a Benny Hampton or someone. I'm not sure how they're going to go about it. But I mean, if Dearden is back in, I think they'll do everything they possibly can to play in week 1 of finals, right? Like, even if he's not 100%.
Yeah, probably.
So I don't know if you want to shake it up and move Drinky to 6.
I don't know if you want to risk your nut. Talk about risking it for the biscuit.
I wouldn't, but these guys are
Jesus
very
Christ.
different.
And for people listening, Dearden has a ruptured testicle, the poor fella.
Yeah. How can you have a look? How long did they keep Chanel Harris-Tavita out for? That was a couple of weeks ago. I've got a feeling he was obviously each nut's different, Kempy, but
really? How do you know?
Oh. What do you got for us, Matty?
Hold up.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do over the next few weeks. What gun to head team list come out tomorrow? What do you reckon they'll do?
Week 1 finals.
No, just for the next 2 weeks. Do you think they'll play Drinky at 6 or at 1?
No, I think that they'll prepare for finals. Okay. Like, they're going to be in the finals. Let's just put like a Hampton in there, maybe a Peter Hiku in the 6, and just, I know he's played a little bit there.
So you could play Hiku at 6 and then
Hamiso
just bring Hamiso in.
Maybe, again, that's just a smoky call. But you bring Hampton in, you go, mate, tackle your dick off, do whatever Townsend says, and just prepare for Tearden coming back in.
He did it in round 7, came back round 12, so it was just over a month.
Interesting. So Dearden, for week 1 of the finals, he'll need to be back in 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
Far out. What a massive blow for the Cowboys.
Yeah,
in the finals.
yeah, huge blow. At least, small silver lining. At least they should be top 4, so they'll have 2 bites of the cherry. So if you can get him back in 4, still not ideal, but
Yeah. I think Dearden's so fucking tough. He'll be back.
I'd be surprised.
As long as he can't do more damage to it and it's just pain, just nut up. No pun intended.
But yeah, I thought Dearden was great. I thought Chad was unbelievable. Some of the how good was it seeing him score that try where he just saw the space in the backfield.
You know, it was funny as I was watching it, like a snippet from an interview with Chad, like as in on Fox League that's coming up tonight, I think. So I watched that. I think it's like Chad in Control or something, and he said the guy interviewing, and apologies, I know who the guy is. I just forgotten his name.
Was it Jake Duke?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was interviewing. He said, "Look, you know, to be honest, there were a lot of people saying like Chad to the Cowboys, like, what's going on with that? Like he's this, that, he's past it." And Chad said, "No, I know who said it." No, I said, "I know." He goes, "I know what was said, and I know exactly who said it." I was like, "Shit, did I say anything?" Then I thought back. I was like, "No, I was always pretty positive about Chadwick going to." I call him Chadwick. Don't know why, I just do. Going to the Townsville, but it was such a good line because I'm like, that's, again, like we always compare it to a guy like Michael Jordan, but that's like a Michael-esque Jordan line because it's like he's taking it personal. He fucking took it personal.
And he loves that stuff too, Chad. He knows his American sports inside out.
And I was like, what a great line. He said, I know what was said and I know exactly, and I know who said it. And I was like, damn. Chadwick took that personal.
And like he's done it. Like I don't think there was anyone that got more criticism during the 2016 final series than Chad when he got hooked for that game.
Put it this way, there were so many people talking shit about Chad's signing. I reckon if you did a poll on worst signings for this season, I reckon he would have won it.
I'm confident he would have won it. Yeah.
People were talking. The amount of people I had to go, hang on a sec, he's a premiership winning 7. In 2018, he won the Player of the Year for the Sharkies. Yeah, okay, he went to the Warriors. His shoulder was busted after the first game. He shouldn't have been playing. It was actually a testament to his integrity as a bloke that he went out and played for the Warriors because most other people would have said, I'm getting my contract anyway. Why am I busting myself up for a club that, you know, I'm not going to be here next year? People just forget so quickly how good Chad was.
If you were Newcastle, what would you pay tomorrow to have Chad walk in there?
Nearly $1 million.
Yeah, it'd be close. I reckon you'd be going 8s, 9s. Yeah.
You know what? I'd even, if my cap was like laid out and I had everything I needed and it's all sorted and we had $1 million sitting there, I would probably pay $1 million for him. And people might go, you're insane. But I'm like, am I? Would you pay $1 million to be where the Cowboys are?
People said we were insane, or people said it was insane for them to pay him. I think it's about 700 he's on at the moment.
Insane.
How unders is that?
Like, where the club is now.
Where the club is. And, you know, 700 is pretty close to $1 million.
Like, put it this way, Newies fans, do you think your team on paper is that much worse than the Cowboys at the start of this year?
I don't think it is.
Matter of fact, I think we all thought it was better.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, and I understand things could happen differently and he could have gone down there, it might not have worked. But let's just imagine that everything happened the same. Would you pay $1 million to be in the top 4 right now? I think they would.
But at the start of the year, like I was obviously pretty vocal. I thought Newcastle would be bottom 4. I didn't mention the Cowboys because I thought it was assumed.
Mate, I did not have them going that well. Like, I thought Chatty would add heaps, but it didn't see. They're like on the cusp of playing in a grand final over the next couple of years. That's how far they've come. And Chad is like one of the key reasons for that. Like,
well, if they play their best over the next 6 weeks, they could be playing the grand final in a month and a half.
Insane, which is like, I love those stories. I actually ran into Chad. Like, the guy got called into Origin. I ran into him the day after Origin Game 3. We were staying in the same hotel. And I just said to him, mate, I'm so stoked for you. Like, so stoked that so many people talking shit. And like now everyone's, you know, obviously a massive fan. And when you talk about one of the true good guys of rugby league, he's Chatty. He is a legend. So, yeah, crazy. It's crazy to think like right now that there are numerous clubs that would die to have Chad at the club. Literally beg for it. Anyone else impress you from this game?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you do with Leilua? I believe Tommy Gilbert was out of this game. Do you play Leilua as an edge or do you just bring him off the bench as a middle in this team?
Mate, I tell you what, after the way he played on the weekend and the way he's been slowly building, I'd honestly almost consider playing Leilua on an edge And then even didn't Gilbert play a bit in the middle?
He does play quite a bit in the middle. So that's what I'm saying. Do you just bite the bullet and let Leilua play on the left edge?
Yeah, I'd probably keep at the moment. I'd probably keep on an edge and rotate Hess, McLean, and Gilbert.
It's got to be one of the most underrated edges. Dearden, Leilua, Val Holmes, Taulagi. It's crazy.
Crazy.
And then Drinky floating in there.
And then you got guys like Ruben Cotter coming off the bench. That's another thing. Their starting front row is Hess, McLean. They got Cotter off the bench. I got Lukey, one of their best young guys, injured.
Jeez, I thought Cohen Hess's game on the weekend was probably the best he's played in a while.
Mate, there was a period there where I thought Hess's career was like almost done.
Yeah.
Like I just was kind of like, I think he might have lost maybe lost the passion for it, lost the fire.
Like there was, to be genuinely honest with you, there was weeks last year where I was surprised he was getting picked still.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I just thought that they didn't really know where to put him. Like, was he a front rower? Was he an edge back rower? And then he's fought his way back into it. So good on him. Absolutely good on him. Outside of that, Tamou using his ball playing again. Wouldn't he be stoked? He doesn't have to bash his body to smithereens every week anymore, and he can just enjoy his footy. Griffin Neem, I think, has also been outstanding this year. I really did. I thought Tanoa Brown was really good off the bench. It's just a well-rounded team. Like Ruben Cotter, he makes immediate impact every time he comes off the bench. Every single time.
He's just a dog, isn't he?
Oh, it's also like we've gotten used to it now. We have to remember this guy is not big, and he's playing in the front row.
And he should have every reason to be a little bit cautious because his body has let him down on so many occasions.
Yeah.
He just plays with no fear of it whatsoever. He did a hamstring 6 weeks ago.
I know. It's just, it's amazing. And like the crazy thing is there's still more in this Cowboys side. Like Lua, once he hits his potential, like next year, their bench might be Cotter, Hamiso, Lukey, and Gilbert.
Yeah.
Is it Gilbert or Neem?
Oh, no, I think...
No, Gilbert's going to Dolphins?
Gilbert's going to Dolphins.
Neem.
Yeah.
So their bench literally might be Hamiso, Neem, Cotter, and Lukey. Like, what a bench. Far out. That is super impressive. So they can only play what's in front of them. I thought McLean was really good in his first game back too. They were good.
Yeah, it's good to see Jordan McLean back. Fuck, that was tough to watch.
Very, very tough. Now on to the Warriors. Obviously won't stay on this too long because we'll just be kind of repeating ourselves. But, look, there wasn't really much to take out of this game, unfortunately. Their forwards didn't run for many metres. Reece had one of his, probably his worst game I've seen in quite a while, Reece Walsh. Wateni Zelezniak ran for 150 metres, which is good, but hopefully Reece bounces back. I can understand been a pretty big 2 years for Reece. He's a young body. Like, you can understand him running out of puff.
And he's just gone so hard the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, there's been times there over the last 2 years where he's been the guy at the Warriors. Like, he was a reserve grader 18 months ago.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to think that I know the juniors pretty well. Like, mate, before I saw him in the trial at the start of last year, I didn't know who Reece Walsh was.
Oh, really?
I really didn't.
Yeah.
It's incredible how far he's come and that, he's taken up the goal kicking as well. Like, you can probably talk more about that, but like as an 18, 19-year-old, like, does he need that lapped on him as well?
Oh, it's massive pressure because it affects your game. Like, if you miss, you feel like you let your team down.
Yeah, and like before SJ arrived this year, they needed a field goal. They're going to Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
And he stepped up on a number of occasions trying to win games of football. So, there's no hiding away that he had an absolute shocker. Very disappointing for Walsh. But, I think it was just one of those days for New Zealand.
Now, did he go off with a head knock or current? 34 minutes.
Mate, it's been like this for a few weeks. I've got no idea what is going on with Curran.
What is happening?
Aitken's leaving next year and they're still not playing him for minutes. It's bizarre.
Like, they can't make the finals. They don't need to win games now. Like, are they trying to avoid the spoon?
It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't have a head knock at all because this is what they've been doing the last few weeks with him.
Nah, NRL.com just have it as normal interchange.
Yeah, look. we won't hang on it too long, guys. But I'm a little bit worried about the Warriors. I just not worried as in like they're intentionally doing anything wrong. I'm struggling to see the future. And again, to be really fair, they've had no juniors or reserve grades essentially for the last 2 or 3 years. So it is understandable that, we're not seeing these young guys come through and absolutely explode onto the scene like we usually see with the Warriors. We see these young guys. I personally think the Warriors, we're going to see a hangover. You have to pay the piper. And unfortunately, for the sacrifice the Warriors made over the last 2 to 3 years, they're going to have to pay the piper. The question is, though, is the NRL going to help them out? Because I think they should. I really think they should.
Some really positive news last week. The Warriors are going to have a team in the SG Ball next year.
Yep.
So for me, straight away, I think that helps them a lot. That'll also help them.
That'll help them massively.
Well, it's going to when you're a 16, 17-year-old and you've got rugby union knocking on your door and you've got the Warriors knocking on your door, it would be appealing to be able to go every second week over to Australia to play under 19s footy. You also then get the opportunity to show yourself to every other scout over here as well. And, I'm just with the nature of under 18s, under 19s footy, that Warriors team will do well.
It will kill it. Remember when under 20s came in?
Yeah, insane. They will. I'd be surprised if they're not a great final.
You know what I think the Warriors should do? This is going to sound mental because we just talking about how New Zealand Warriors last week, all that kind of stuff. I think they should set up a base in Australia because that way you can allow young men and girls to, because a lot of Kiwis, and apologies, I'm not speaking for anyone, it's just my understanding of a lot of young Kiwis, and please correct me in the comment section or whatever. But a lot of young Kiwis come to Australia for more opportunity. Like New Zealand's a beautiful place, but there's just not as much opportunity for that. And whether it's schools, whether it's your job, whether it's university or whatever. Now New Zealand still offer that for sure. Like I'm not sitting here saying New Zealand's a beautiful place with a lot of great stuff. But there are a lot of young Kiwis that move over because of opportunity in Australia. And so that's where I wonder, if you could create a base in Australia, then you get the best of both worlds. You can say to your young Kiwis that, do want to move to Australia, that you can still be a part of the Warriors, go to a school here in Australia and, develop your life here, and your partner or, your mother or your father or whatever, they can get a job that they enjoy. Because I think the minimum wage over in New Zealand is quite low. In saying that, everything's relative, obviously. And so I wonder whether that would be a good way to keep players in the New Zealand system by setting up a real strong base in Australia. Now, it probably costs too much, but maybe this is where the NRL could help out. And that might entice players to... It also might entice more Aussies to join the New Zealand development. So, for example, if you're a young Aussie that gets scouted by New Zealand, you don't have to go, oh, shit, I'm 16 years old. Do I have to consider moving to Australia, to New Zealand? I can stay here, come through their system, play in their SG Ball side or whatever. Yeah. I think that might be a way forward for them. Just an idea.
They're also getting a team in the New South Wales Cup next year. Yeah. So they used to have the Vulcans. Yeah. I'm not sure if it is the Vulcans that are returning, but they will. So that's the other thing that people undervalue, that during this period, one, they were living out of a suitcase in a hotel. 2, out of their top 30 squad, they had to pick 9 of them every week to go up to Redcliffe to play for the Dolphins in reserve grade. Yeah. It's just been a nightmare for them. Yeah. Peter O'Sullivan was pretty much driving a bus on a Monday afternoon, the 9 guys up to Redcliffe to drop them off there, and then it's just, and these are guys that, these are your Valias, your Rocco Berries, these guys that are 19 years old that are away from home. They're only just out of high school and they're being shipped all over the place. It's been tough. Just one positive for the Warriors, and a guy we haven't spoken about in a while because he's sort of been a little bit overshadowed at the Sharks, but they're getting Luke Metcalf next year.
Yeah, he's good.
So he's played 12 games for Newtown this year. He scored 14 tries, kicked 30 goals. Yep. 12 line break assists, so he can play. He's been playing halfback and 5'8" this year. He's previously played fullback, so I think he'll be a really good... I think everyone's talking about all the other signings they've got. I think Metcalf could be a really important one for them.
Yeah, I mean, and the good thing is he's one of the best players in New South Wales Cup, so they're getting literally one of the best players in the reserve grade comp, which they don't really often get, which is good. So yeah, hopefully that will. Hopefully the NRL can help prop the Warriors back up after everything they've sacrificed. Now, On to Broncos v the Storm. Oh, man. Tough night. Tough night at the office. We'll talk about the Storm first. When I said last week that they played incredibly against Panthers and I wasn't sure they were fully back yet, the Storm are back in a big way. They're back in premiership contention. It's just incredible. Like, you take me back 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, this is a tired Storm side that has been through so much moving on this over the last few weeks. I just didn't know how they would dig themselves out of where they were. But once again, you count the Storm out, they defy all logic and reason. Every time you think they're done, they come back and say, no, we're not done. They are back in a massive way. They looked incredible on the weekend, and they're one of the greatest sporting organisations this country has ever produced.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as, it hasn't been the best 2 or 3 years, they were going up against one of the other best sporting franchises in Australian history here, the Brisbane Broncos. Melbourne were very good, there's no doubt about it. I agree, I think they are back. I think they're going to give this comp a really big shake, but fuck, Brisbane were disappointing. I can't believe
we'll get to that. Don't worry, we'll get to that.
But yeah, Melbourne, I thought Harry Grant was great. It's probably his best game I've seen him play in a while. I thought he was very impressive. I thought Hughes and Munster, the whole back line was great, to be honest. I think they all scored a try except one of them. They were all very strong. We mentioned a few weeks ago that, a turning point for Melbourne could be Cheese coming back fresh off his suspension. He's come back as the Cheese that we used to know.
Yeah.
He's looking really strong at the moment, and
he just gives that energy through the middle. That what we were talking about when they were struggling, we were saying they just don't have any oomph through the middle, and Cheese has done that.
And you can see as soon as Cheese gets the ball, the entire spine stands up on their toes. They know, okay, now's the strike. Now we go at it, which they just... There's a period there where they just didn't have it. Like, there was a couple of weeks there where Munster was out and you were watching Grant and Hughes just going, like, they're just so stagnant the entire time. And then we don't have to tell you guys know, like, just how important your middle forwards are and momentum is. And I think he's been... I think Nelson as well. Like, he's using him a little bit unorthodox, but... I always say that you should pick your teams that the opposition doesn't want to deal with. And if I'm a halfback on an edge, having Nas coming at me, fucking miss me.
It's almost
I don't
like...
get paid enough for that.
Yeah, and it's like you've taken let's say you're a half, you've taken them from a game that they enjoy playing to a game that they're dreading, that they're going, oh my God, like, I'm not going to be able to tackle this giant.
Yeah.
Like, Ezra's a rookie, but he had 9 missed tackles, and you can understand, like, Nelson is absolutely massive, but moving him to an edge, like, there's some, like, oh, he's a cat, he's running at smaller players. The goal is to win a game of rugby league.
Yep.
And also, he spent a whole career running at the front rows. There's like, do you think Fafita would be scared of running at front rows either? These guys are professional athletes. There's not, like, that is such nonsense.
And it's we spoke about it all during Origin, that the Blues, you pick taller wingers so you can kick to them. Same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Taller than the other guy, kick to him.
Yeah. It's
bigger than the other guy, run at him. Why wouldn't you?
It's crazy.
And like you obviously mentioned, Ezra missed a couple of tackles, but even when he makes them, like, God, it just takes so much away.
Incredible. It skittles the whole defensive line.
Yeah.
The rest of the set, they're on the back foot. And Melbourne Storm are the best in the comp at sniffing a fast play of the ball. As soon as there's a quick play of the ball, they are it's like an avalanche. Like, they are just shooting through.
They just flood the middle and it's just on.
It's just on, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, there's literally nothing you can do about it. The Storm are back, in my opinion. Like, the Broncos were disappointing, no denying. They put 60 on them. 60. Like, and the week before, without a few players, they held Penrith to 0. The Storm are back in a big, big way. And it's so frustrating because all year we've been going, I'm not... Even in the preseason we were saying, I think the Storm's forward pack, might be a bit light this year. And then we would say, but it's the Melbourne Storm. So even though my head is saying to be concerned, I know the Storm, they'll turn it around. Yeah. And then the 1 week, I'm not sure if you did, but you agree with me, may not. The 1 week where I go, you know what? I think they might be...
No, I agree with you. Yeah, 100%.
So next week they go, boom. They go, nah, bruh, we are fucking back in a big way.
I was going to say, I think, like, we talk about how the Storm get written off every year for the last decade because of different circumstances. But this year, in that 1 week, I think it might have been after the Raiders game when Paps did his knee. That was the only time in my life I've ever truly gone, nah, they are done.
Yep.
And now look at them.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, what's crazy is I've never been in the party of riding the Storm off. And, you know, I've
It
never
felt like
been.
a trap the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Through all these years, whenever I read these articles, I laughed them going, they do this every year to the Storm, every year. And they lost 4 in a row. They lost their Pappenhausen. They had an aging forward pack that is signed with all these other teams. I just thought, surely the Storm can't push through this. But once again, they prove why they are one of the greatest sporting organisations we've ever seen.
And, just to make it more impressive, they played the Penrith Panthers last week, granted missing players, didn't concede a single point. Played the Brisbane Broncos this week. They handed a try to Kurt Capewell in the 10th minute.
Yep.
They've conceded 1 try to Corey Oates in 2 weeks, playing 2 top 8 sides.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. Olam's hit on Ricky was, what a shot. I mean, you got to hold them, but he's a monster. He is a monster on that edge. I love he's like a throwback. Like, it's almost like the game had moved away from this hyper-aggressive player because of errors and, missing the tackle or... and yet Olam has got the best of both worlds. He picks his moments perfectly. I think when he came into first grade, he might have not picked his moments the best, but now he knows when to just be calm and stay on his edge, and he also knows when to enforce himself on the game.
Would you have him sort of on par with like a Steve Maddai? Has he hit those sort of levels for
Not
you
yet,
Not
but
yet?
I tell you what,
He can't be far off.
He can't be far off.
Yeah.
Like he's not there yet. I think because he debuted quite a bit later as well. I think so. He probably doesn't have as long as time.
How old?
I think he's like 27 or something. He's a bit older. I think.
Yeah, okay.
Because he didn't come to rugby till quite late. Till he was in uni. Pretty sure. Till league.
28.
28.
Wow.
So he's a bit older. But yeah, he is phenomenal. But yeah, Nelson Asafa-Solomona. I will say the one thing we did get right, we said at the start of the year, if the Storm are to make a shake of this competition, Nelson needs to have a massive year. Like everything hinges on him. And he truly is their, absolute go forward. Mate, they are looking red hot. Harry Grant was outstanding. He was a nightmare to defend. Every time he even gets half of a play of the ball, he makes you pay for it. Every time. That was the issue with the Broncos. They were losing the contact in every single instance. Every time the contact, they'd fall off the tackle or they'd have to scrounge back on and try and wrestle. Mate, they were outstanding. Nofwaluma, I thought, had probably his best game since coming to the club.
Yeah. 10 tackle breaks, 188 metres, 2 tries. Very impressive, Noff.
Cam Munster, I mean, honestly, seriously. The 1.5 was crazy, 6 weeks ago or whatever. I reckon he gets it.
Yeah, I think he's a real chance to. And even watching him play the other night, he was good, but I also felt like Munster's just got something about him that when the game's won, he sort of puts the cue in the rack.
Yeah, he's a fighter.
Yeah, you just know that come finals time, he's going to be he's waiting for a close.
He loves his back against the wall.
Yeah,
and so sometimes Munster can go. He's almost perfect for what they've got though, because he identifies when Hughesy's got this or Pappy's got this, Grant's got this, and he can take a step back. Whereas I kind of feel like if he was constantly dominant, it would take away from that.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the Melbourne Storm and has been for a very long time. Even when you had the big three, they've always been the best club at just addressing who has the hot hand. And when they have the hot hand, the ball goes to them. They get the ball when they need it, where they want it. And yeah, there's been times this year when it's just been Grant and they just play through the middle. There's been times when it's been Hughesy and there's been times when it's been Munster. And when it's Munster, it's fireworks.
Oh my God, it's just so good to watch. Tottenham Paya, I thought he was
he came
solid.
in and did a good job.
Yeah, did a good job. It's just, amazing. What else is there to say? Josh King probably had one of his better games. There really isn't anything to say. The Storm were amazing. They absolutely dominated, and they're a premiership threat again. They really are. They're back in the hunt, and I would not want to play this team come finals time. Would not want to play them.
I was going to say, big game this week, Storm versus Roosters Friday night.
Huge game, because the Roosters are hitting form as well. And it'll be the good thing is for both teams, it'll be a really good gauge of where exactly are we? Are we where we think we are?
Yep.
Because you could make the argument, the Penrith game, they were missing players, and then you could say, well, Broncos played appalling, so that's why. Whereas like the Roosters, we know are in form. And same with the Roosters. You go, well, they played the Tigers, and, so, look, Storm are back, and they look super exciting. Super, super exciting. Now, on to the Brizzy Broncos. Incredibly disappointing. Like, just incredibly disappointing. It's probably, I'd have to say, it's probably the first time this season that they've probably let the jersey down. And the sad thing is like they've let themselves down. Like, of course the fans matter for sure. Like, you're out there, the fans are the only reason why you do what you do. But I spoke about this a few weeks ago where I said they were in danger of basically undercutting all the hard work they'd done all season long. And this was the game that it happened. They had worked so hard to get the club back where it belonged. They'd sacrificed so many things that we'll never know. All the stuff, because I've been there. I know what it requires to be in a good footy side. The things that you have to do. And these guys have done that all year. And unfortunately, they've hit this patch of form where they may not make the 8. And then all of a sudden, an incredible year goes into a disaster. Like, literally a disaster. Like, even though if the Broncos finished 9th, people would, at the start of this year, would be like, oh, yeah, it's okay. But the fact that they've shown that they can be a top 4 side, it turns into a disaster, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that's where this is so like, they've obviously had some really disappointing performances over the last 2 years, but mate, this was right up there for me. Now that I know the standard that they've set them for themselves, to see them put in, and like, sometimes you walk out in a game of footy and you get punched in the face and you just get rattled and it's done. I mean, like, they were gifted a try in the 10th minute. Get them back to 6-all. Like, Melbourne don't do that for you. At home, 6-all after 10 minutes or so. Yeah, you're on the back foot, but gets you back into it. They then went in at half time and, it was 24-6. And for me, the game was over. But if you're Brisbane, you're going, fuck, if we score next,
you could be easy back in.
Yeah, it's a 2-score game.
Yeah.
Like, and I thought it'll be very telling how Brisbane come out in the second half. And, mate, I'm sorry, they got worse. They conceded 6 tries, and they conceded in the 42nd minute.
Mm-hmm.
I said to you off mic, I was watching on KO the game before that, and then, when it finishes and there's a little bit of an overlap to the next game, like, Walters was in the change room really giving them a spray before the game, and you know more about him than me, but I just thought, I haven't really seen him be this way. And to me, it sort of looked like, obviously, this is a huge game for Kevin Walters too, against his former club that he's coached at and been a part of, the Melbourne Storm, and for them to put in that performance, especially, it was the second half that stood out for me. They had their chance to regroup, get themselves together again, and they still just came up with duck eggs.
Yeah, as I said, like, just a very, very disappointing. And unfortunately, we spoke about a few weeks ago, but they seem like they're resting on their laurels. They seem like a team that, I guess have taken a step back in, like, oh, it'll come. We'll be able to get the win. We went on that 7-win streak or whatever, and we've come so far. But unfortunately, you just can't be too comfortable, because we are truly in a position now where we genuinely could miss the 8. I thought Starks had a pretty poor night. I thought Cobbo, another 3 errors. That makes it, I think, like 7 errors in the last 2 weeks. To be fair though, Selwyn Cobbo, he's still so young, so these mistakes are going to be, as you develop in your game, this will slowly get out of his game, like, in the sense of, like, I don't think it's going to be like this forever. I just think because it's essentially his rookie year, there's going to be games or a couple of games here or there where it just doesn't seem to work for him. It's also been a really big year for him. Shoots onto the scene, makes Origin, gets a head knock in the last game, out for a bunch of weeks. Like, it's been a massive, massive year for him. So, yes, last 2 weeks have been disappointing. So hopefully he can bounce back. Corey Oates, although I thought he had some good moments, he had 3 errors. Just a really poor performance. And the boys have to ask themselves, it's in their control how they finish this year. They can finish it where they're praised as the team that turned the club around, or they can finish it as the team that the Broncos are still where they are. Like, there's no improvement, because that's, even though there has been improvement, that's how it's going to be read. And it's just really, really disappointing that it's come to this. Like, I don't think anyone, some people may have expected, but, you know, Storm were red hot. Like, they're a great side. Yeah, they were a bit down a few weeks before, but they were great against the Panthers. If they go up there and win 24-4 or whatever, it is what it is. It's just the way we lost. It's just, unfortunately, it just doesn't represent what this team has given all year, which is unfortunate.
Did you see this coming? Did you, like, I expected them to lose, but I thought they'd be competitive.
I think I said to you last week with the Knights game, I said if they play like this against the top tier teams, they're going to get absolutely douched.
Oh, I just thought at Suncorp that they'd deliver better than that.
I absolutely saw this coming, like 100%. Now, did I see 60-12? Obviously not. Yeah. I didn't see 60-12. No way. But did I see him getting put to the sword by the Storm? Absolutely. Again, like, I'm probably like 90% sure last week I said if they play like they did against the Knights, against the Storm, they will get absolutely douched. And it happened. And the thing is the concern I have is they came out against Parramatta and absolutely blissed them. And ever since that game, it feels like they've gotten comfortable and they've gone, we're a high quality footy side. We just douched the Eels, who have beaten Penrith. And unfortunately, they deserve this. Like, the only people to blame for this, unfortunately, are for themselves. Like, we have been building towards this. We got beaten by the Tigers. We just beat the Knights. Like, I know it blew out in the end, but the Knights were in that to the death. Yeah. Like, we're struggling against bottom table sides. We only have ourselves to blame. We really do. But I think they can turn it around. Now, I will say, I think that we need to make a few changes. You know, I think I would like to see probably Kobe Hetherington come into 13. I wouldn't mind seeing Gamble come onto the bench. Turpin starting. I'm not sure where that has come from, like why Billy Walters isn't starting. Corey Pakes, I'm not sure why he isn't on the bench.
What would you do with you'd start Walters and have Pakes?
Well, I thought Walters was starting. I thought it was Walters. When we were winning in that 7 run, I thought Walters was starting and we had Pakes coming off the bench for a bit there. So maybe there's injuries or whatever. Even though Hoskins is going, I would be at the minimum putting him on the bench. Minimum. Now, Kurt Capewell, he's injured, so I'm not sure how long he's going to be out for. I'm not sure what Rabati's doing. Kennedy, I'm not sure if there can be space for him on the bench, unfortunately. Yeah, I think there needs to be changes. I'm surprised that we didn't go back to the team that was dominating through that period of 7 games. Maybe it's been injury or I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely boys need to be better. They really, really do. This could end in disaster. And I just feel sorry for them because they work so hard.
You feel like one way or another, this is going to be the game at the end of the season. We're going to look back and go, like, if they do manage to turn this around, like this was the wake-up call, I probably don't think it will be. But I feel like more so this will be the game where we'll look back and go, fuck, this is where Brisbane's heart broke.
I really, really hope not. I really hope not. It'll be devastating for the club. These boys have worked their asses off. All the staff, everyone have worked their asses off, and then we finished like 9th or 10th. So that's basically where everyone had us anyway. And it's like, so hopefully they can turn it around. Because yeah,
I remember sitting here 5 weeks ago and saying that, I think the Broncos, I think that was like pretty much the last game they won before they hit that trouble period. And I just remember sitting there going, I'm not that impressed. This is who the Broncos are. I know this is what I'm going to get.
Since the Eels, probably.
Yeah, like I was just, and ever since then they've been the opposite of that.
Yeah,
it hasn't been as bad as last year or the year before, but it's been very disappointing because
67% completion rate. If you go out and you get if you complete at 80% and you get towed up, I can be like, you know what, that's rugby league. But when you're completing at around 65% completion rate, that's just not good enough. It is not good enough. So hopefully they can bounce back. I got faith in the boys. I got faith they can bounce back because they got themselves to this position, and I think that they'll be able to. I hope they can. I really do. For their sake, it would honestly hurt me to see at the end of the year all the articles about how bad they are when they've come so far as a club. So far as a club.
Have you got Parramatta this week?
Yes. Yeah. Which is like, if we get good Parramatta.
Just Thursday night too, short turnaround.
Yeah. Fuck. Tough gig. Tough gig. We just got to win our next game, which is still a tough game, isn't it?
Yeah, you're going down to
Roosters?
Dragons.
Oh, okay. So we should be able to win that. But again, we're not going to win that game if we play like the way we played against the Knights, the Tigers.
It can still be tough to get those round 25 victories.
Yeah, I mean, but in saying that, like if we can't get up for that to play finals footy, seriously, that is letting the jersey down.
Especially with the Raiders draw and how they're going.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, on to next. Para Eels, doggies. Wow. Eels looked like a premiership threat, but we don't know. Is that going to be the Eels next week? Who knows? Dylan Brown.
For your sake, I hope it's not.
Yeah, fuck.
For my sake too, I hope it's not actually.
Mate, Dylan Brown was absolutely phenomenal. And what I loved about this performance is we'll talk about his incredible plays. Everyone saw that. What a lot of people may not remember, 8 minutes to go. The game is done. It is over. He has put on one of the best performances, if not the best performance of his career, one of the best performances all year by a player. There's a kick down the left side. Guess who the guy is chasing all the way from the other side that grounds the ball with his torso? Now, some people say isn't with his torso, but your torso is down to your hips, isn't it? That's my understanding. So I think it was, but even if it wasn't, he was still the only player chasing. And that, for me, is what makes Dylan Brown great. And that's why I think he's going to have an incredible career, because even when the game is over and he has killed it, he had every reason to put his feet up and go, boys, I've led you to a fucking incredible victory. He said, nah, my job is not done. He chases back when he doesn't have to, when he saves a try. He is incredible, such a good player. The Eels were absolutely outstanding. What did you think of this game?
I can't tell you how happy I am that we both died on the Dylan Brown hill last year.
We were getting pummeled.
Absolutely. It was ridiculous. But yeah, he's playing great footy this year. You obviously mentioned that play. He's had a heap throughout his career where he's come up with these defensive efforts where you just think, why are you there? You don't have to be there. No one's expecting you to be there. And he just finds a way, Dylan Brown. And yeah, I thought the pass that he threw to Sivo, I think it was.
Beautiful.
So good. Like it's close to a perfect ball.
It was a no look pass too.
Yeah, he's a freak, and like the combinations that he's built with Sean Lane, who I think's. I heard Brown talking about after the game, and he said that Sean Lane's been our best player this year, and I sort of went, and I thought about it, I went, you're probably leaving yourself out.
Yeah,
but
he's up
Sean
there.
Lane, the two of them have just been incredible out on that edge. Even like the way that Mitch Moses and Dill Brown were connecting, like, is there ever a better sign of a team going well than when their halves are able to connect like that? I know that you posted and talked about him being, cool and whatnot, but for him to come into, and the angle he came in onto that rolling ball and just get a light touch on it to make it sit up on the next bounce, there's not many guys that could do that.
Oh, mate.
There's hardly any that could do it.
We're not even seeing close to his potential. Like, he is an athlete. Like, if you put his athletic potential, just that alone can get him into first grade. But he's also a footballer as well. So that's the scary thing. We've got this guy that's, 6'1", 6'2", fast, fit, strong, but he's also got the silkiness of a guy that's not athletic but a really good footy player.
And I think that was his biggest detriment last year, that if you didn't understand footy, you looked at the stats and you said, not enough tries. His timing is so good that last year he just wasn't getting the stats that he should have got. All the other guys outside him, and we said it all last year. Now it's started to change. He's obviously on the front foot a bit more now. Just incredible. Like, I come back to it again. That play where he sort of kicked it through. Like, obviously you were very good with your feet. Like, people don't realise how hard that is to do.
And it's left foot too. I think you trapped it with.
It's crazy.
It's just, mate. He is honestly. The hard thing is that by all reports, Moses and Brown are going to test the open market. What do you do there? If you're the Melbourne Storm, he's my number one priority.
Oh, mate, I think if you're a lot of clubs, could you sign him as a half-back or not?
No, 6.
6?
I think that the closest player to Munster is Dylan Brown in the competition. Now, they're not close. They're not similar.
Yeah, but he's the closest.
He is the closest though. A big, strong, ball running 6 that has silky hands.
So if you were like Newcastle, Dill Brown isn't a guy that you look at then? Like, it wouldn't be bad to have, but like he doesn't really solve your halfback issue for you then?
Oh, and saying that, I feel a lot more comfortable if I'm going Clune, Brown, Ponga. A spine with Ponga and Brown in it, it's pretty hectic.
Yeah, if you arrive down in Melbourne, that'd be terrible, mate.
Well,
Like him and Hughes, if you had the two Kiwi halves together.
Yeah. Well, I've actually got a post I'm going to do probably maybe later today talking about Kiwi carnage. Hughes and Brown are the current Kiwi. Like, we've had some of the greatest Kiwi halves, ever. But I don't know if we've ever had two Kiwi halves at the tippity top of their game, at the top of the NRL when it comes to, like, with Cleary and Munster at fullback. Like, Munster at fullback, Cleary out. The best halves in the comp right now are Kiwi. Now, when Benji was coming through, he still had Lockie, he still had Thurston, he still had Cronk. I just can't remember a time when you've got. You can even make an argument that Brown has been better than Munster at 6 this year. Like, that's how good Brown has been this year, in my opinion. Now, I still have Munster at number 1. At number 7, Hughes' stats are not that far off Cleary's. Like, Cleary's still number 1. I think the Kiwis right now with Brown and Hughes, I cannot remember a time when they've had 6 and 7 in the most red-hot form you can imagine.
Yeah. And I just think the spine in general, we spoke about it around Rep Brown, and people will say, oh, yeah, but they had that time where they had SJ, 4 and Roger. It's like, it wasn't all at the same time.
No.
It wasn't all in the same 2 seasons, let alone 1 season. At the moment with, the Kiwis having Brandon Smith at 9, those 2 halves, like, they're incredible.
Yeah, it is. Like, and another thing as well is, like, 2011, Johnson made a grand final. But we're talking about Hughes here, who's winning grand finals. Like, he's winning grand finals in the best team in the comp, like the Storm. So although Sean Johnson on his day was phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal, I still think, like, Hughes right now, he is a tippity top premiership threat half, and he has been that way for 2 years.
Hughes is essentially a utility that stepped into Cooper Cronk's shoes and was successful.
Yeah. And so, mate, the Kiwis are just something to be super excited about. These 2 players together, it's going to be scary. And then you look at fullback, Joey Manu. Then you look at 9, Cheese.
When I was saying that, I was just trying to think who's the fullback. I couldn't remember. Joey Manu. Fuck.
Yeah. And then you've got Cheese at 9. I personally think it may not be the greatest ever spine for Kiwis on paper as in their names, like, your Benjis and Sean Johnson. But I personally think it is actually the greatest spine they've ever had.
It's the most informed spine, easily, I think.
I think this spine would beat a spine of, let's say, Foreign, SJ, who would be a fullback,
Roger,
and then who would be a 9? Isaac Luke. I think this spine beats that spine.
I think that's fair. I do, yeah.
And again, those guys were absolutely fantastic. I just think that, like, as you said, Foreign wasn't at the tippity top of his game whilst he was with SJ, and SJ wasn't at, like, they never ever came at the same time.
Never coincided at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, for example, Isaac Luke, you'd say 2014 was his best year.
Yep.
And then Foreign, he come in 2011 or 13 at the Manly?
No, I think he was like 11 was that his first year?
No, I think 10 was his first year.
Yeah.
So 11, he would have been, like, so they won, what year did they win? 11?
11.
So, and they beat the Warriors.
Yep.
Yep.
So that was probably the only time when you would have SJ
and Roger hadn't debuted yet.
Roger hadn't debuted yet. So Foreign's arguably at his peak. You've got SJ, but
we're forgetting. I think Benji was the 7.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think Benji was a 7, so SJ wasn't even the 7.
No, I'm just looking. So in the last New Zealand game of 2011, Foreign and Benji were the halves.
And so Benji wasn't in career best form then.
Who was the fullback?
Kevin Locke.
Yeah, I cannot remember a spine that has that. Again, names wise, I'm not saying that they're bigger than the Benjis and not at all. But form wise,
yeah, like Benji's huge year was 2010. I'm pretty sure. I think he won Golden Boot that year. We're going back a bit, but yeah, I think you're right. Like, they're all colliding all at the same time.
They're all in
but that would be the closest. The Benji Foreign year 2011.
And unreal that we've got a World Cup this year for it.
So good. So like they are a scary, scary combination. Then Tarpane. Then you've got Fisher Harris. Then you got is Leota playing for Samoa or Kiwis? I think. Anyway,
but like on top of that as well, like I remember sitting here a year ago going, "Fuck, Rogers gone, New Zealand's in trouble."
Yeah, Joey Manu far out. Yeah, it's really really exciting times now. I'm sure, like some people have said, they kind of feel that Benji foreign spine, but I just think that when you like Cheese at 9, fuck, I don't know if we've ever seen a more informed New Zealand spine. I really don't, and I think that spine, even if you could pick like Benji in his best year, Foreign in his best year, Isaac Luke in his best year, Roger in his best year, I still think that spine right now would challenge that.
I think so.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's how good these guys are going.
That 2011 year, I just looked it up. Isaac wasn't even playing hooker. He was playing off the bench. Thomas Luluai was the hooker. I think when Madge came in 2012, that's when we saw the best of Isaac Luke.
Yeah. So So Kiwis, get excited. Seriously. Like, it's exciting times for the Kiwi side. Now, back to the Eels. I think, I'm pretty sure Junior Paulo is injured. I don't know. I was speaking to someone that apparently he is actually playing on one leg or something.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, because it makes sense. Once again, only 86 metres, 10 carries, and I think he might be injured because before that, early this year, he was absolutely phenomenal. Sean Lane, 170 metres, Papali'i, 156. I thought Murata Nakora had some really good runs as well.
Say it every week. God, they're going to miss him.
Oh, I think he's definitely underappreciated. I think he's going to be great for the Warriors. Yeah. Really good for the Warriors. I thought Opacek had a really good game. I thought he was great.
I think he's very underrated, mate. I think there's obvious, like, he doesn't have the highlights and everything, but he's just consistent. He's just I don't think he ever plays a really bad game. He never plays like a 9 out of 10, but you just get a 7 every week. And you know, when you look at some of these teams and some of their centres, like, they should be begging for a 7 out of 10 every week sometimes.
Well, I think the good thing for the Eels now is it seems like they've decided Wonga Blake's a wing.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually shored up their edge defence dramatically by having Benzini and Opacek in there because they're both solid. Like, people forget, Will Benzini, he's 19 still.
Yeah.
He came through with Suoli'i. So Will Benzini, he's got a huge future. I thought he was really good. And what I love about Benzini is he's just going about his work. He's sort of
plateaued, but he hasn't lulled. That's a good sign.
It's a good sign. It's a really good sign because that next step he takes is going to be massive because there is going to be a next step. The concern you have sometimes with rookies when they go like this, then they go boom, then they go like this, and then they go boom. Whereas the positive is, as you said, since coming in grade, I haven't seen him have a shocker. And at minimum, he's been solid.
He's just holding his own everywhere.
And on the weekend, he was outstanding. A try, 2 try assists. Like really kind of like an unsung next-gen rookie. He's 19 years old. This is a guy that was getting spoken about in the same breaths as Suoli'i. Like, they came through together. Hopefully, league keep him as well because I'm pretty sure he's a union boy. So he was outstanding. Mitch Moses, far out. He had so much to them. Just direction. They just look like they just look like a premiership threat. When he's in the side, I know they lost games with him in the side, but with him in the side, the direction is so clear. The end of sets are so set. You know where they're going. You know where the ball is going. Him and Dylan Brown, their combination is just getting better and better and better. I really hope they can keep both players.
There's not a hope in hell they're competing for a comp if Mitch Moses isn't on the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
So say what you want about him. He is still a Premier 7 in our game.
I think so. And the reason why, like, part of the reason why I would love the Eels to win a comp is for a guy like Mitchell Moses to finally get his flowers. Because I just think that for too long, he's an easy target.
Yeah.
But he has continued to develop his game. And, you know, unfortunately, look, and I'm not having a crack at Luke Brooks at all. I think it's more a evidence of the environment than Luke Brooks. But Brooks and Moses came through, and Brooks was probably seen as the better.
He definitely was. Yep.
One guy goes away to the Eels and makes the move. One guy stays at the Tigers. Look how far Moses has taken his career, where he played Origin last year. And that's all because he has just refused to quit. He's refused to, all the negative and the people chatting shit, he's just kept working. His defence that used to be a bit of an issue, now he goes games not missing tackles.
Yep.
I really like Mitchell Moses. Like, I really do. And I never have understood the negative energy around him at all. Like, he's passionate. Like, I want him yelling and spray. Like, what's crazy, what I find strange, and it's all about winning, but like a guy like Joey, he was passionate as anything. He used to yell and scream and all that kind of stuff, and we love it. And then when like Mitch does it, apparently it's too much and this, that, and the next thing.
It's funny how we fall into those traps.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like,
and look, I get it. Joey won comps, so you kind of go, well, he won comps. But yeah, Mitch Moses, I thought he was outstanding on the weekend.
You've got just written there that silky ball from Brown to Madison, just on the high view. Fuck, that was a good try to watch. You had Moses set up on the right-hand side, and, if you pause it and you have a look, the defense had them for numbers, and then Dill Brown just peels across and Moses just slides, and all of a sudden they create this number out of nowhere, and Dill Brown comes from a perfect blind spot. Madison runs a perfect line. Like, as a defensive side, when you see that and you see your man Moses drift out, then all of a sudden Dill Brown's coming out, you must just be sitting there going,
yeah,
fuck, how on earth are we going to stop this now?
And
perfect.
Madison went overs.
Yes. Yeah.
And what's so hard about that, because what they did was they set up like a block shape. So a block shape usually is where the lead player hits on the inside shoulder and then you see the sweeping player behind. But what the Eels did is, instead of hitting the inside shoulder, they drifted out. So it's very hard for a defender, because 9 plays out of 10, you have to check that inside shoulder.
Yep.
But so your body is almost moving towards that, going, oh my God, Madison's coming, I've got to be ready. And then he hits out. It's very, if you're
you get stuck in mud.
You get stuck in mud. And if your outside defender gets in front of you, which a lot of defenders are doing to try and shut plays off, the gap's right there. Beautiful play. I know I get shit for it, but I think the Eels are premiership threats. I think they are. I really do. And I know it's against the Bulldogs, rah. And I just think that when you watch them play, yes, it's against a team that's at the bottom. It's quality footy.
Tell you what, if all these top 8 sides play their best footy at the right time of the year, mate, it could be one of the great final series.
Well, that's the thing. I think maybe my definition of premiership threat might be very different to a lot of other people. When I say premiership threat, I mean like they can win the comp. Like, as in, if they go on to win, I don't think it's like, oh my God, the Eels have gone on this crazy run. Because, like, for example, I still think, like, I never thought the Broncos were a premiership threat. I just don't think they can win the comp. A few weeks ago, I would have said the Rabbitohs, I don't think they can win the comp. I'm still, like, maybe, like, they're probably a premiership threat, but I'm still not 100% in that camp. Same with the Roosters. I just want to see a few more games from them, like 1 or 2. It's really, at the moment, for me, premiership threat is Panthers. Storm have obviously roared back into contention. Cronulla, Cowboys, and Eels. That, like, right now, that's who can win it.
So you've got the Eels pegged on top of Roosters and Souths at the moment, as far as who can win it?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, probably. Only because they've beaten Storm and Panthers. But as I said, I just need to see another couple of games, especially from the Roosters, because, like, they have just gone, like, steadily like that.
So are you saying that in your mind, the Broncos are the only team in the top 8 at the moment that you think can't win the premiership?
Yeah, probably. And I've always said that. Like, I just don't think I think they need another year together, and maybe one a recruit. But also, like, I just think they need another year together. I would say that, like, the reason why the Eels one is so just out there, it's because they've beaten Panthers twice in the Storm.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so bizarre. Whereas if you take those wins away, I'd say, no, I don't. I just don't think so. And I also will say, like, I'm not 100% sold on, like, right now, it would go, like, clubs that I don't think can win would be like Roosters, Rabbitohs, Broncos. Like, as in, they could fall in that category. Broncos are already in that. Rabbitohs are probably still in it. Roosters, I just need to see them play a top-tier club. I know they played the Cowboys, but that was after a tough week.
Yep.
Like, Roosters and Rabbitohs are right on the edge for me. I don't know where I put them. I want to see another 2 games and then I'll be able to make a decision. But right now, those 3 teams I would have probably towards the bottom. And then the Cowboys, Sharks, Eels, just because of those 2 crazy wins. And then obviously Panthers, Storm. That's who I can see as premiership threats right now. Like Rabbitohs to me, for example, like we spoke about earlier, where I'm torn because it was a good game of footy, but they were playing a team without 3 of their key players.
Yeah.
So how can I say they're premiership threats when they just lost to a team without their... so just want to see a little bit more from him. Just a little bit more. But yeah, anyway, on to the doggies. And to be fair as well, I actually think that this is one of the closest top 8s we've had in a very long time. I still think the Panthers are like out and away favourites. But I think that this top 8, like last year, if you had said to me who is a premiership threat, I would have probably said Eels when they went on their run, Storm, Panthers. That's it. And then Rabbitohs came out of fucking nowhere, so that proved me wrong. Now on to Bulldogs. What do you think about the doggies?
Another one of these games. Disappointing.
Actually, sorry, before we move on, who's your premiership threat?
I've got obviously Penrith. I personally think the Sharks are going to go on a bit of a run. I've got them and Penrith in the grand final at the moment. I would have South and Roosters in front of Parramatta personally, just because they've got guys in their teams that have done it before, been there and done it before, especially the Chooks, which, you know, I'm surprised I'm saying that because I didn't think they'd have their shit together, as I've said, for the last 6 or 7 weeks, but they look like they've got it sorted. I think the Cowboys, I would say they are a threat, but I think they're just a slightly better version of the Broncos. I still think they're going to need another year before they're going to really have a crack at a premiership. Who haven't I mentioned? I'm the same with you as the Broncos. Oh, and the Storm, I've pushed them back up. I still don't think... I think it's going to take a very special effort to beat Penrith regardless from anyone.
I agree with that. So we're both essentially like Broncos are really the only one in the 8 where we go.
I think we're both exactly the same, except I'm probably a little bit higher on the Sharks than most people, and I'm probably a little bit lower on the Eels than most people.
Yeah, interesting. Because I'm probably a little bit higher on the Cowboys.
I respect what the Cowboys have done. I love it. I just don't think they can win a comp this year.
Yeah,
whereas, like who do you think's got more chance of winning a comp this year, the Cowboys or the Sharks? Like for me, I'd say definitely the Sharks.
It's a tough one, because they played a few weeks ago and a few bad calls and it was a close game. But I don't know. Honestly, maybe equal. Like I don't know. Probably just Sharks. Just.
Yeah, like it's obviously going to come down to who gets, like the Sharks just need to get their full fucking team together.
Yeah.
They need Toby Rudolph. They're not going to get Katoa back, but they need Talakai back out there as well. I think the Sharkies are going to... Anyway, we'll get to them. Canterbury...
Doggies.
Yeah, one of these games, disappointing one at Combank, Parramatta. Love playing there. I don't know. You obviously had Tavita Pangai Jr. and Luke Thompson. Great to see Luke Thompson.
Yeah, really good. Apparently he's been going through a bit personal stuff.
Yeah,
so,
okay, good. Because that was strange how he just...
So he had all the head knocks and he was struggling for like weeks and weeks, and then I think his mum had some issues or something.
Yeah, okay. Right.
So,
good to see him back. Yeah. I don't know if he's got a future at Canterbury, but if he doesn't, God, a number of teams should be.
Mate, he's a gun.
He's a weapon, and seems to be just a good leader as well. Mate, I'm not really sure what to touch on. Canterbury, back end of the season, only a couple of weeks left, and come up against, when Parramatta play well, they can do this to anyone. We know that. I don't know what more to say on Canterbury, to be honest with you.
Yeah, look, we'd honestly just be going over. I will say, like I've said it every week, but Paul Vaughan, I really am surprised he's going. Maybe it's a price thing, I'm not sure. But yeah, look, we would just be repeating ourselves, guys, with the doggies. So unfortunately, sorry, doggies listeners, if you were hoping to hear what we had to say, but like, what really is there to say? Like, they never really were in the contest.
No, I think we could tell you about all the good things that are coming next year and that are going to happen next year, but
we've already said that
the last 12 weeks on the trot. So,
and like, look, one thing, 66% completion rate. That's a big negative that you're never going to be able to win games against top tier teams like Eels. I know Eels are inconsistent, but this was a top tier Eels side that played. Outside of that, Max King, 105 metres, 31 tackles, 0 missed. but just didn't seem to have the same. Just that they don't have the. I feel like they've lost ever since they can't really make the finals. They've just lost a bit of energy.
Yep.
What's it been like the last 2 weeks now? Maybe the squad's just quite tired, fatigued. It's been a big year for the Bulldogs club. Like just so much shit going on, and also like, new coach announcement. That might be a little bit like it's a lot of news. It's somewhat new. It's not Potter, so maybe that affects things. I'm not sure.
Do you reckon? Do you think Matt Burton goes to the World Cup?
Man, as we say every week, like our squads are going to be 50 people, but I wouldn't be against it.
Might do a 30-man cut and still be at 50 at the moment.
Oh, actually, I think is it 24 people that go?
I reckon surely they'll take like 30, won't they? Close to that.
I think they've announced it yet, but they haven't toured like since the COVID, so they'll probably take a few more just in case.
Yeah, surely I reckon it'll push up to 28, 30.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, what if you were to take me to be as a 6 or a centre? Like you're gonna have Val, you're gonna have Latrell, you're gonna have
maybe Gagai.
Suoliti will be there. Then you got like guys like Sel and Cobbo, who I think they'll probably take as well. Who'd be your 5'8"? You'd take Munster. Who'd be? Do you take Hines as coverage for fullback?
Yeah, look, I'd probably put Hines in the squad before Burton, but the positive with Burton is just the future. Yeah. But I think Hines and Burton are around the same age. Like I think Hines is 23. But in saying that, maybe you go Hines back up 7, Burton back up 6.
Yeah, the other thing's going to be
actually, sorry, DCE.
You got DCE. The other one's going to be how they work. Like I think Ben Hunt has to go there. No questions asked.
Yeah, he'll be the 9, I think.
Yeah, you reckon he'll be the hooker?
Harry Grant will come off the bench, I think.
Nico was a late bloomer. He's 26.
26?
Yeah.
Okay, so a bit older.
Yeah.
I think Hines, like he's going to probably win the Dally M. He'll get in the squad, surely. They'll bring him along, I think.
I think they will, yeah.
I think they have to bring Hines because if Teddy goes down...
Well, that's where I feel like you could bring Edwards.
Well, yeah, that too.
Tough one.
So are you saying that you think Cook will miss it?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think so at the moment. I just think that the show that they put on, Grant and Hunt in the Origin, plus the form that they've continued to play, I think Cookie might miss out. And like, I love Cookie.
It's who do you think's more likely to go, Appy or Cook? I consider like if Penrith win it.
I don't know what Mel thinks though. Mel might be because Mel, he is from the era of like loyalty with Queensland, so he may stay loyal to Cookie. And Cookie hasn't been bad this year. He's actually having statistically the best year of his career, or at least 1 or 2. Again, I understand he hasn't been as dominant, and I don't think he was that bad in Origin either. But I know he had like 1 or 2 plays that didn't work out. But I think he made like 50 tackles and didn't miss any. But mate, it's a tough one. I love Cookie. I really, really do. It's just Ben Hunt is almost the Dally M. And I just think that, he's not going to play 7, but he has to be in the side. And I think that the evidence of Hunt Grant in Origin, that combo, it's going to be a tough one. And Malmaning has already come out and said there's essentially only 2 hooker spots in the squad. Yeah,
that's what makes it interesting. So that's why I wonder if at the end of the day they'll take Hunt as a 9 or whether they just take him as a bit more of a utility and they take 2 other 9s, even though you'll probably play Hunt there.
Okay, because you could go Grant, Cook, or even...
Yeah. I think there's going to be one very good player in this competition that's going to miss out on a spot because of Ben Hunt, and I don't know whether it's going to be a 6 or 7 or a hooker.
So it could be Hines, or it could be...
Could be Burton, could be Hines, could be Cook.
Yeah.
There's a number of guys that it could be.
It's tough on Cook, though, because like
it could be DCE. If they choose to go with 2 hookers, it could be Chairs.
It's tough on Cook, though, because like he's played in that jersey and played so well in that jersey, but it's been so many years since they played. Anyway, really interesting whether they bring Burton. Far out. I would have said yes straight away, but then I'm like, ooh, how many people? Now, Manly Sharks. Wowzers. We'll get to Sharks first. I thought they looked outstanding. I think they're building nicely. Hines is just so silly. I cannot believe how good this guy is going when remember at the start of the year, not having a crack at you, because you thought the same as everyone. Like, he was a 6. He was bored as a 6.
I thought he was a fullback, to be honest with
exactly,
you.
exactly.
I
And
thought even 6 was going to be a bit of a stretch.
And Kennedy, and even, matter of fact, no, actually, I thought he was a fullback or a 6, but I was like, he's the best 7 they've got because they had no other 7. Like, if he went into a side with, like, I don't know, Chad Townsend or something like that, I would have said, oh, yeah, he's definitely not a 7. The only reason I said he was a 7 is because I thought he was the best at that spot in the club. So even I thought he was a 6 or a fullback.
Yeah, it's mate. What he's done, like, and I remember we got to like round 8, and I was sort of saying, I don't know if anyone's ever gelled into a team in a new position better, but like, and it hasn't just been a couple of weeks thing; it's been the entire season. I think along with Hunt, he's probably. I think there's an argument he's been more consistent than Ben Hunt this year,
mate.
Like he's
because like we have to remember he's leading a side that didn't make the finals last year. They're in the top 3 right now, and he's killing it.
Under a new coach, like there's so, the more you think about the Sharks, the more impressive it is. And you know, I as much as Saturday was 3 blowout games, fuck, if you enjoy good halves play, God, it was good to watch Moses and Brown do what they did, then watch Moylan and Hines combine as they did, and then fucking Keary and Walker, who we'll talk about soon, they were the cherry on top. Like,
mate, seriously,
I thought. That first try that Moylan chipped for Nico, that was great. They had another time where they linked up later. No, I think the Sharks are going to go on a real run. I love their side at the moment. I just think once they've got this entire pack with Dale and Cam McInnes, I just think they're going to be so ready for finals.
like Lockie Miller, he was amazing. Like Will Kennedy's still the best fullback at the comp at the club. But, man, like, I like Lockie Miller. I know there's some people that thought that Dykes, like, I know he's injured, but I think Miller is, at the moment, more ready to play fullback in the NRL. Like, he is amazing.
I just read you out a few hours ago, Metcalf's stats. He's their 4th choice fullback.
Amazing.
Like,
And Dykes is great, too.
I can't believe we haven't seen Metcalf in first grade.
Yeah. It's honestly insane. And Dykes is outstanding as well. Like, they've got 4 fullbacks that...
Yeah, a year ago, Metcalf was the Jets fullback and he was killing it. He's now playing in the halves with Lockie Miller, who was the Jets fullback, who's now playing 5'8" because Cade Dykes their fullback.
Yeah, that's how good this... It's just amazing, honestly. Like, Lockie Miller, 197 metres, 51 post-contact, 10 tackle breaks, 1 offload, 3 tackles. Then you've got like guys like Connor Tracy who come in, kill it. Katoa, who was arguably their best meter eater, is not even playing right now. Ikavalu comes in, he runs for 235 metres, scores 2 tries, has a try assist. Just incredible what they've managed to achieve.
And like you had him in your team of the week. Royce Hunt, like,
mate, he's been phenomenal.
About like depth guys that step up. He's been incredible for them.
Okay, he doesn't have like 200 metres or whatever, but the runs that he does do and the work that he does do is just getting better every week.
And that's the beauty of like him and Fafita. Like their role isn't to go for big stats. Their role is to come on for 30 minutes and go berserk. Like I don't have it in front of me, but I assume Fafita's is even left. He's probably in like a 25-minute role. Like,
he was 33 minutes. He ran for 35 metres, had a try assist, 39 post contact, 4 tackle breaks. 8 tackles, 0 misses, 3 offloads, 1 line break assist.
I think he's so important to this side for Fafita.
At the start of the year, I said I don't know if he'll get a contract to the Sharks next year. I think they probably should re-sign him. Obviously not for the whack that he's on, but I don't think he's done. I think he's still got plenty of footy left in him, which is a massive credit to him.
It'll be interesting to see, like, depending on how far they go this year, how he feels at the end of the season. Like, mate, listen to that story of what he went through last year. Like,
oh, mate.
Like, it's great that he's playing footy, but he's lucky to be alive.
Yeah. His body is like hanging by a thread. Like he's bashed his body to smithereens over the last 10 years, but I think he's still got plenty to offer this club and this side. He was great off the bench. Cam McInnes, as usual, 30 tackles, 0 misses, over 100 metres. Yeah, look, these guys are just...
What happened to Dale? Did he get a HIA?
He hurt his ribs.
Okay.
Yeah, came off pretty early.
So like comes
Came back
off,
on.
22 minutes, they just bring on McInnes and kills it. Like
fucked.
they just... special, man. This Shark squad is just getting started. Just getting started.
That's without Toby Rudolph as well. I think he's probably been their best front rower this year, I think. Getting him back will be huge.
Braden was good at the start, but ever since Braden got injured, Toby Rudolph has been the best in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep. I think Nakora's having a really good back end of the season. I think we all expected a billion tries from him. It hasn't played out that way, but mate, in defence, he's just been so solid.
Yep.
I think that they are one of the, like, outside of the Panthers, who are obviously the best and the most well balanced. I think this is probably the next best well balanced squad.
They're just the depth. Like, their depth is crazy. Like, Trindle comes in, does a job. Yeah, it's a very special time for the Sharkies. Like, Jesse Ramian is arguably having the best year of his career, and you're barely talking about it because they're going so well. Like, every player is.
Ikavalu's played 4 games, so he's just come in sporadically here and there. He scored 4 tries and had 6 line breaks.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, well, I mean, what else is there to say? They absolutely dominated from woe to go. Exactly what you want heading into finals footy is the teams that you should dominate, you do. The Sharkies' next step is those big games now. It's getting the big scalps. Like, I know they beat the Storm when the Storm was struggling, but I just want one big scalp of a top 4 side in form, you know? Now, to be fair, they beat Cowboys up in North Queensland.
And that's where their test is going to be for me, because you look at the spine, like outside of Moiser, none of them have really played huge games. Like, Nico Hines has been in Melbourne for big games, but wasn't, like, he came off the bench in the grand final and whatnot, hasn't played Origin yet. Brayley's very similar, hasn't played big games. So that's going to be a real test for. But that's just where I think Cam McInnes and Dale are just going to be worth, and Fafita as well. They're just going to be worth so much.
Yeah, so good. Sharkies looking good. Now, Manly. Yeah. I'm concerned. I think that there's a bit of an an undercurrent of issues at the moment. There's an undercurrent of issues. It does not seem like a club that I just cannot fathom for the life of me how far this team has gone from, like, out of all the teams outside the 8, at a period there, you were saying Manly were the most likely to shoot into the 8. Now they look like a team that's like a bottom 2 side, and the rumblings about Desi Hasler and everything going on, I'm really concerned, and I don't know what I don't get is, like, okay, obviously they had the jersey thing, but like they were going, like, I don't understand why there would be dramas. Like, I understand the jersey thing can be a big issue, but, like, surely that's not the reason why they're still struggling.
You'd hope not, but, like, it seems like it. Like, it's 5 in a row they've lost now. I remember when Turbo got ruled out, I said on here, they can't make the 8 now. And 6 weeks later, I was like, oh no, they're definitely going to make the 8. Now they've lost 5 games in a row, and they look like a basket case. Like, they play the Raiders this week in Canberra. I've got no idea what to expect there. No idea whatsoever. And obviously, you know, they've lost Turbo. They've lost Ruben Garrick as well. But like, that game on the weekend, they got beaten 46. That was Foz's last game at Brookvale.
Yeah.
And that's what they came up with.
It's not good. It's really, really not good. I think we might see a bit of a fallout. Like, something doesn't look right at that club. Something's got to give, because these blokes are not playing the way that they were playing only 4 or 5 weeks ago. Like, I don't know what is happening, but
they beat the Storm in round 16.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And then the week before that went up to North Queensland and they played North Queensland at 4 Pines and, you know, led by a heap there. Did get run down, but yeah, it's been a roller coaster season. Yeah.
So unfortunately, Manly fans, I think it might get a little bit worse before it gets better. Like, the thing that's really concerned me is, like, the Desi Hasler rumblings about getting re-signed. Like, where did that come from? It's like, where did that come from? How could he even possibly be under the pump?
Jeez, wouldn't there be some clubs that would dive at Desi if he came off?
In a heartbeat. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, some positives were like Kohler 7 tackle breaks, 165 metres. Olakawatu had some crazy barnstorming runs, 9 tackle breaks, 142 metres. But yeah, had an error here or there, but I just don't know what to say because it's not adding up. Like there's clearly something going on there that they're internally struggling with. Hopefully they can sort it out. I really do, because it would be sad. Like the Manly have fought and almost like fought their way back into being really liked by a lot of non-Manly fans. Like people they're like their second team, very likable characters, and then all of a sudden this just implosion happens, and
it almost feels like Des could leave and then he'll come back and save them again in 4 years.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's so. I don't know what's going on.
If Des was to go, fuck, you'd be brave to take that job, wouldn't you? I understand you've got it. You'll have a Ches, you'll have a Turbo, a Jake. Like it's a good side, but history just tells us that if you're not a Manly person coming into there, you're brave.
Like if they're willing to get rid of Des, how safe are you?
Yep.
Like, was it last year they were in a prelim?
Yeah, South beat them to get into the grand final. Yeah.
Yeah. And then less than 12 months, there's articles about him may not getting re-signed. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It is, honestly, I just don't know what's going on. I really don't. Hopefully they can. Because I personally, I love when Manly are playing good. Ches, Fosdog, Tommy at the back. It's some of the best thing you can ever watch. But, yeah, it's just there's something going on there, so hopefully they can work it out. Now, Roosters, Tigers. We won't talk about Tigers that much, guys, but we will talk about the Roosters. Holy moly. Look, obviously they played a Tigers team that didn't play well at all and really let themselves down. But the Roosters are looking scary. I would not want to be playing these guys in finals footy.
No, they. You were right a couple of weeks ago. They've just been slowly chipping away at it, and it's definitely come together now. I was out there at this one, and I was up pretty high watching it, and I was obviously about 3 kilometres away from the field, but just watching from an aerial point of view how they all move and how they just shift to one side of the field and how Keary and Walker are interacting at the moment. Like, I feel like they didn't look like that. I know they didn't look like that 5 weeks ago. And yeah, granted, it was against the West Tigers. They hardly got off the bus. Let's call it what it is. But the way, like their edge back rowers, the lines they were hitting and how hard they were, and just their timing of everything they were doing, nothing was ever out of sync at any point. I was very impressed with them, and the one that I was most impressed with was Luke Keary. I thought his ball playing in this game was incredible. And we spoke about, having the hot hand. I always feel like Teddy, Manu, Keary, Walker, they're getting in each other's way. I just felt like the other night they saw, okay, Kez has got the hot hand. Yeah. Let him do his thing. And like there's very few ball players that are more enjoyable to watch than Keary when he's at his best. He's incredible.
I'm so happy for him. Like, there was honestly a period there, and we all have to be honest, where we're going, shit, I don't know about Keary. Like, I'm really concerned. He's had his head knocks, and, it looks like it's not clicking with Sam Walker, and maybe the Roosters are going to make some tough decisions. Like, we just have to be honest. Like, that's what the feeling that we got out of the Roosters, in my opinion anyway. That's the feeling I got.
Mate, that was my opinion 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. And then, boom, the champion that Keary is. Like, I still don't believe he gets the credit he deserves.
Yeah.
What he did in his grand final, where he had Cronk on the field busted, was amazing. But what a lot of people don't know is in the back-to-back grand final, the second grand final, his ankle, he had a syndesmosis. He had to get surgery. He was supposed to be out for like 6 weeks. Played a grand final on it. Like, he's right up there with the best sixes of the last generation, of this generation.
Yeah. And I mean, we also forget, like, Matty, 2014, that was his first year, and his halves partner, Adam Reynolds, was in his second year of first grade.
Well, not only that, he got injured in the nines.
Yeah, he didn't even play all the whole year.
So he came back in round 16 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He is something special, and it's just, we're all guilty of it. We just forget so quickly about how special this guy is. And for him to fight back the way he did, there's a reason why the Roosters love him. There's a reason why, Trent Robertson has such high praise and all the players respect him. Like, think about how hard it would be to get respect and not dominance, but just think of the guys he has to tell, oi, get there. Like, we're talking Hargreaves, we're talking Manu, we're talking Teddy. Like, the respect you must earn to be, it's incredible.
Yeah, and it'd also be a lot on him as well. And this is the first time in his career he would have been in this position where he's also taking this incredibly talented teenager under his wing and teaching him as he goes as well. Like, I imagine, like, I'm sure Sam Walker would listen to every single word, but I imagine it would be hard to sort of show Sam Walker the smaller details in rugby league because he's so naturally good at the big plays and everything. And I just think Kiri's done a tremendous job. And, yeah, as you said off the top, they're not a team you want to play come finals footy. They're going to be scary. Angus Crichton, mate, the lines he was running.
Nightmare lines. Nightmare.
And then...
Like, look at this. Tedesco, 261 metres, 10 tackle breaks. Joey Manu, 225 metres, 102 post-contact, 11 tackle breaks. That is nightmare stuff.
Just on Teddy, and no one's really spoken about it. He was on 14 Dally M points when it went shut. Roosters are now 6 in a row. Like, there's a chance he could be right up there as well.
Yeah, bloody oath he could. Bloody oath. And he deserves it. You know, I know he was a bit quiet at the start of the year, but if you recall, I said I was getting a feeling Teddy was going to go on a run because he doesn't stay quiet for long. Like, it's not like I'm some fucking genius or whatever. But Teddy always does this. Like, 2018, he did this. Like, if he's quiet, and when we say quiet, we're still talking 200 metres or whatever.
Yep.
It's almost like he's just gathering himself to just explode, and then boom, just happens. He's just incredible, honestly. Such a pleasure to watch. Tupou, 2 tries, 150 metres, gun. Suoliti, seriously, a joke. He is honestly a joke, Suoliti. It's scary.
I actually, the group of guys I was with, one of my mates, he's been down in living in Melbourne for the last 6 or 7 years, loves his AFL and hasn't watched footy in 5 or 6 years. So like, I was literally saying to him, like, you remember Tedesco? And he was going, who? Like, just hasn't watched it. Anyway, there was a kick that they put up and he jumped up and got it. And he turned to me, he goes, who's that? I said, this new guy, how old do you reckon he is? And mate, he almost fell off his chair when I said he was 18. Like
19. 19, yeah.
Is he 19 yet?
Just turned 19 a couple of weeks ago.
Every week, yeah, right. But like, just, and mate, I actually thought the other night was one of his quieter games too.
But just every time, like, think about this. This is a 19-year-old dominating other forward packs, like skiddling defence lines. We're talking about the toughest of the tough in this country. You don't get tougher than an NRL forward outside of like MMA. Yeah. You know, we're talking tough, hardened players, and this 19-year-old is just absolutely skiddling them every time he runs the ball.
There was a play that someone on the left edge for the Tigers got the ball at the back and they dropped it just before contact, and you could see them looking at Suoliti to see whether he was coming on. They dropped it 2 or 3 seconds, like probably 2 seconds before they would have got hit, just because teams are now aware of it. That
I would argue in a rookie year, like essentially a rookie, obviously he played last year, he's had the most big shots of a winger that I can remember.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't remember a winger having this many highlight shots in their rookie year.
And I don't recall a debutant winger being this good out of their own end.
Yeah, physically. No. We've never seen that before. I think we've seen the aerial stuff with Izzy, and we've seen some incredible stuff with Israel Folau. But I can't recall him doing this dirty work the way Suoliti
I think
did.
it's only Izzy's very best stuff that is better than what Suoli's, and it's just the aerial stuff. Like, if you would have put Suoliti in that Melbourne team with Cooper Cronk kicking to him the way he was, can you imagine how many tries he would score?
I haven't seen a lot of Suoliti's footwork yet, but Israel Folau had deceptive footwork.
That's fair.
Deceptive footwork again, but you know, they're close. They're really close. Like I'm honestly, as a rugby league fan, I am so excited to see what Suoliti turns into, because it's not just his like. He has all the physical attributes. It's very easy to dismiss what he's doing because he's genetically gifted. It's his attitude that is. He has the. If you could take a kid out of school and say, we want him to have a 10 out of 10 physique, he would have that. But very, very rarely do you find a kid that has a 10 out of 10 physique and has a 10 out of 10 mentality.
I ran into
impossible.
Roger Fabry the other day, and he was talking about. He was saying that. Like he had him from when he was about 16 coming his stuff, and he said from the moment he walked in when he was 16, he was the most professional there.
Crazy.
And he had Boyd Cordner there. He had
Amazing.
he had the superstars of the superstars, and
You never get that. You never get that.
Yeah, it's just
amazing.
It's scary what his ceiling could be.
Nat Butcher, 4 tries. Nat Butcher has been fantastic this year for the Roosters. Like, I think at the start of the year when Trent was trying to find out, who was fitting where, and Satilli was there, and like, again, no one wants to see a guy like Satilli injured, but I think it actually has kind of cleared up. It's just given Nat time to just ease into his position, I think.
Yeah. I think Satilli'd be a little bit nervous heading into the start of next year now.
Yeah, I think so. But look, he's always going to get a bench spot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it's
in typical Roosters fashion. They have too many fucking guns to fit in their side, literally. I thought Egan Butcher was great off the bench. Played 60 minutes. I think Lodge has actually really impacted this team.
Massively.
Talk about a pickup. Like, I can't see this team going on the same run that they've gone on if they didn't have Lodge.
No, I agree. I think he was the perfect footballer for them to pick up in that moment, like where they were at, what they needed. I'll tell you the other one that's becoming, like, he scored a try on the weekend that was a pretty soft try, but it was a cracker. Connor Watson.
Yeah.
I think my biggest worry 6 weeks ago was that they were trying to play everyone for good minutes. I think Robbo with Watson's just gone, hey, you've got 30 minutes when Rads has a rest.
30 to 40, yeah.
Yeah, you just go berserk for that period.
Yeah.
And he's taken advantage of it, Watson. He looks great at the moment.
Yeah, it's really good because, like, if the game needs to go up a level, Watson is your man. He's almost the best in the comp. I'd say probably Cheese is the best in the comp, but I tell you what, Connor Watson is not far off. Yeah, that's the wind. Crazy.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
I assumed it was like a car. Yeah.
No, I think it's a wind. Pretty sure it's a wind, which is weird. I walked here. It was not windy at all earlier. But yeah, look, Roosters, they are looking scary as anything. Like, seriously. Like, we haven't even spoken about Angus Crichton. 2 tries, a try assist, 203 metres, 8 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks. Just. And then you got Verrills, who's been really good for him as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Imagine being Oliver Gilder. You've gone from, and what's really interesting, once again, Robson has gone for a couple of small fellas on the bench. So it just seems to be a game plan that he's finally decided, I think I need to go some small fellas on the bench just to make and that's what I was saying earlier in the year when I'm like, Trent's tinkering with something. He's unsure of like what his game plan is going to be in the new age. And I think that he may have landed where now he carries almost an edge front rower, then one front rower, and then 2 small fellas that can increase pace. But Oliver, he must be sitting there going, I might actually be playing finals footy this year. I couldn't even get a gig
At the Tigers. And
now I'm getting a start at the Roosters who are on a run. Incredible. Tigers, there's not really much to talk about, seriously. We've spoken about the Tamou stuff. We've spoken about Dewey. Just a tough. And the thing is like, Dewey defensively obviously had his misses or whatever, but he still ran for 129 metres against a completely dominated Tigers side, which says something about his commitment. That's pretty incredible.
You can never question that of Dewey.
No, never question his commitment, which is good, but not much we can say about Tigers, guys. Now on to the Titans, Dragons. We'll probably keep this pretty short, guys, because it's not finals footy, so apologies if you're Dragons or Titans fans. From the Dragons' perspective, I'm stoked that Amon is starting to just absolutely show the comp what he's about. Talk about electrifying.
Mate, I ran into him last week, and I hadn't met him before. Just said hello, shook his hand, and mate, he looked like a fucking Cheshire cat. He just looked so confident at the moment. He was smiling ear to ear, and he he was just bouncing around like he's. It's going to be a big few months for him. He's obviously got the World Cup at the end of the year with Tonga. I assume he'll be the starting 7. That'll be his team. So very exciting for Tonga to see him starting to play. Obviously scored 3 tries last week. Bounced back with another good performance this week. He's obviously not going to play finals footy, so he's going to be fresh coming into that World Cup for Tonga. I'm not sure who's going to partner him in the halves there. It might be like a Lola Hea or a Mason Lino from over there in England. I'm not sure who it's going to be, but he's going to be the key to that side. So, mate, I really hope he can hit some good form for the Dragons over the next few weeks and take it into that World Cup, because Tonga's side is stacked, but it's going to be the halves that decide it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just stoked that we're seeing, what we saw glimpses of a year or so ago. Sorry, he's electrifying. Seriously, if he just gets put in a little bit of space, he can absolutely tear you apart. Still so young, got a huge future. It's great for the Dragons that they have it looks like they have their 6 and 7 sorted. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with fullback. Another person I want to shout out, Jack Bird at 13 he was amazing.
It was hard to work out at times what position Jack Bird was playing. Like, he was just sort of floating all around. But, mate, personally, I think that's what you want Jack doing.
I think we've said for a while, like, we kind of feel he's a 13, but then he tried it and it didn't really work.
Like, I've always thought that he's a 13, but I've always thought that Jack de Belin is more suited to the 13 in this team than what Jack is. But when you get Bird at his very best, he's one of those guys you don't want to play against.
Constant threat, just a nightmare to defend. He had 2 tries, a try assist, 151 metres, 10 tackle breaks, a line break, 2 line break assists, and offload 19 tackles.
And when he's at his best, like, he can beat you in a few different ways, no matter where you are on the field, what's happening. Like, he can step past you, he can go around you, he can run over the top of you if he wants. He's a pain in the ass to play against.
Tautau Moga, I'm happy for him. He actually started, I think, at the Broncos, or maybe at Roosters and then to the Broncos.
Before that, yeah.
But he's always just been a player where I'm like, man, you should be playing first grade. Like, you're a massive body, so much potential. He went to the Knights, it didn't seem to work out.
He's been injury plagued.
Yeah, okay.
So, like, even when he was a teenager, he was a gun, but he just had so many injuries. And there's been 1 or 2 games at every club where you sit there and go, oh, fuck. Like,
yeah,
he played
the
left
Broncos.
centre for the Broncos one
you were
night.
going, fuck, this guy might be our centre for a long time.
He did the same thing at Newcastle. He popped up at left centre there and he just blew it away. And now the Dragons, I think him and Lomax have taken a little bit of a while to work out their combination. But, 3 tries the other day. He was very impressive. So, good to see him finally getting some results there.
Yeah, and getting some game time as well. Moses Zemba obviously come off after 19 minutes. So, I still think that even though I think Ramsey's had a great year, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the fullback position. Do they bring Sloan back in?
I don't think they will. I really don't.
So you reckon Ramsey's a long-term solution?
Oh, well, like, if they bring Sloan back in, what? Why? You've built Ramsey up to a point where, like, I've been impressed with him.
Yeah, that's a good year.
Like, I to be honest with you, now bringing Sloan back in, that would almost make less sense to me now.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah. So do you let him go?
Yeah,
you reckon? Wow. I just know if he hits his potential, it's going to be
for sure
devastating.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if they're not using him, what's the point? Like, and from what I've seen in his New South Wales Cup, and I haven't watched it super closely, but it looks like his confidence is pretty shattered to me. So I think a fresh start would be, which is like crazy to think that, the way we were talking about him at the start of the season,
Mate,
last season, he
was electrifying. Like, him, Amon, and Sullivan together were electrifying last year. I thought Sullivan was outstanding.
Had a good game on the weekend. Had a great game, Sloan. Just have a look at his stats: 2 tries, 3 try assists, 1 line break, 2 line breaks, 1 line break assist, 5 tackle breaks. So I'll take that bet about his confidence. But he's probably doing okay.
I thought Sullivan was outstanding as well.
Yes.
He had a try. He had 3 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 22 tackles. Maybe they've found a way to use him off the bench.
Yeah, it's going to, I mean, Andrew McCulloch's only got, like, I reckon he'll play 1 more year, would you say?
It's the word out was, I mean, he played 12 minutes here. Do you have a head knock?
I'm not sure. I think he did have an injury to some extent, yeah.
Yeah, probably an injury.
He went off early. He went off in the 12th minute.
Yeah, 12th minute, so probably either a head knock or an injury. I don't know what's happening with Andrew, with Macca. I really don't, because there was a talk about maybe retiring, like, not him, but then when that gets leaked, you're like, oh, is he getting pressured to retire? So I'm not sure what they're going to do there. Thoughts on the Molo send-off?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fair.
I thought it was fair. I thought it was fair. Like, that's a tackle where I go, you had a swinging arm.
Yep.
You know, you were the first. It was the first contact. He was the first contact.
It ticked a few boxes. Yeah.
It ticked all the boxes. Like, that's where I can go, you know what? We need to be harsh on stuff like that. Yep. There wasn't that much mitigating factors. It was the first contact. Like, you could make the argument that Herbert kind of lowered his body a little bit, but I'm okay with that being a send-off.
McCulloch had a knee injury.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was okay with the send-off. I was. As long as they're consistent, you know. Obviously, if that happens next week and, you know, don't get sent off or whatever. But that was pretty bad.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
It was flush contact too. I mean, I'm Herbert. Like, he got back up, but geez, he got cleaned up. Sewer, 190 metres, probably one of his better meter eater games. So yeah, good win for the. It's a hard to gauge. Like, oh, congratulations to Woodsy on his 250th. Hard to gauge, obviously, because the Titans are at the bottom of the table, but good win. And exciting for Dragons fans because you got to see Amon and Sullivan kill it, which is what you want. Now, Titans quickly. Look, positives are Campbell is just electrifying. Seriously, he looks so silky.
Yeah, it's even just the minor things he does, just some of the touches he has. Like, there was a moment there where Fafita offloaded a ball to him, and all he did was catch and pass, but he caught it out with his palm like that whilst he was scanning the defence, and just little things he does. He's just a natural. Yeah.
The Titans find themselves in this very strange position now where I believe they look like a better side with Tanner Boyd at 7.
Yep.
They've got AJ Brimson playing 6, who has to be in the side. They've got Campbell at 1. They've got Foran coming. Are you going Foran, Brimson, Campbell?
I think so. You cannot leave Brimson out of this side. There's no question about it. He has
and you cannot leave Campbell. You need Campbell time to build his combinations.
So, like, for me now, when I have a look at it, all of a sudden you have got the best player and the best back in the club, Brimson, playing out of position to fit Campbell in, who's probably the second best back, to be fair. And then you've got, like, I'm confident that Foz can play halfback and will do a good job there. But, mate, for the last few years, he has been a very traditional 5'8" as well. Like, I think they'll be better next year than what they are right now. I have no doubt about that. But it is going to be a really interesting balance, this side.
It's just unfortunately their roster management around this area, they just don't seem to be able to get it right.
Yeah, and I think it reflects. I think rugby league is one of, and I obviously don't have as much knowledge about other sports, but I think it's one of the hardest sports in the world when you're on the bottom to drag yourself off the bottom. I think there's clubs like the Cowboys and stuff that have made it look easy this year. They've hit gold though.
Broncos, and there's one key factor: Broncos and the Cowboys.
Yep.
2 sevens that have won a premiership.
Yeah. So hopefully they are heading in that direction.
Another thing as well, just quickly, Newey Knights, a 7 that had won a premiership.
Yep.
It's So hopefully they can work it out.
Yeah, and it sounds so straightforward. Just go and get a halfback.
Yeah.
Fuck, there's not many of them around.
There's really not. There's really not.
It's so hard to find them, and I reckon right now is going to be the worst time possible to find a halfback because stocks are so high on them. That you're going to have to pay huge money to get. Like, I think they've done incredibly well to get Foz, and I don't really think he's a halfback. I think he'll do the.
I think he'll do a job. I think he's good enough to get them to the top 8.
I don't think he's that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase. I'm not seeing them in the top 8 next year, but I think he is a good enough he's a good enough player at 7 that he could get a club to the top 8. If you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, okay, yeah. I don't see this team playing finals footy, but so I think out of all the options they could have got, he was probably the one.
Yeah, so for example, if you chucked him in, let's say you chucked him in the Sharkies with Hines at 6, I see them could still play in. You know what I mean? Whereas if you took a, I don't know. I'm not going to say a player.
I know what you're saying.
A lower tier half right now, chucked into a top tier team, you could actually see that team falling out of the 8.
Yeah.
Anyway, Titans going to be interesting to see how you juggle that. Tino killed it again.
But it is also interesting that we just spoke about their entire spine. We didn't even say Toby Sexton's name.
Oh yeah, well,
Which is-
like that's almost implied that he was in that.
Yeah.
The juggle, but it's just like it's that they just handled it so poorly, that half situation, because Tanner's been at the club they got Tanner off the Broncos. He was with the Broncos initially. He's been there for 4 or 5 years now. And it's like, and look, in their defense, like, maybe Tanner wasn't playing that well, but in saying that, he's been given a little bit of an opportunity, and half the time he's been training to play 9, and then you put him at 7, and then Tex Sexton's the guy, and it's just, then Aaron Clark, he started at 9, but now you want to move him to 14, but then he you know what I mean? Then he's 13. Like, I just feel like they haven't really handled the spine well. Like the 13, the 1, the 6, the 7, the 9, just hasn't been handled the best.
It's been handled very, very poorly, unfortunately.
Now, last game of the round, Raiders versus Knights, or Knights versus Raiders. Wow. Knights come out and you go, wow, that is the team we all thought yous were. That's the team. Milford was killing it. Clune seemed to be directing the players around, and everything looked great. They go in, half-time, come back out. I don't know whether the Raiders came out as a different side or the Knights came out and just didn't, I don't know what happened. But the Raiders come out and put on a bunch of points on. They end up winning 28-22. We'll speak about the Raiders and then quickly about the Knights, obviously, because there's not much to speak about. But Raiders, great win. Like, they're still in the running. And, early on the show I said I'm so impressed by the way they've turned things around. But I will say I'm not convinced that the Raiders can win the next 2 games.
You just always felt like the Raiders were going to win this, but win ugly. I never felt like they were going to blow Newcastle out in this one.
I thought they were going to fucking go up there and go skits, Ricky Stewart skits. You know what I mean?
Do it all that often though, the Raiders?
Well, I just thought, they've got a sniff. The Broncos had lost. It's everything was set up for them to come out and just put them to the fucking sword, in my opinion. That's what I thought.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. And then they got blown off the park in the first 20.
Yeah. And look, I thought Newcastle were pretty good in the first 20 minutes, to their credit. I don't know if that makes you Newcastle Knights fan happy, or if it just fucking frustrates you more that they fell off a cliff. I can imagine it would probably be more the latter. But yeah, the Raiders, win's a win for him at this point. I thought Sebastian Kris was unreal. Got one over Gagai, and then I know it was an uncontested one, but for him to take that ball above his head off a bomb, like, you don't see that all that often, was a good knock. They've got 2 games left, and coming into finals, I'm starting to notice more and more, which I cannot work out what Ricky's doing. Tom Starling's playing more and more minutes now.
Yeah, 71.
I can't fathom what Ricky's.
And Wolford played 9 minutes. Made 5 tackles. Come on for 9 minutes and made 5 tackles.
There was a bit of content that the Raiders put out the other day where they mic'd up Tom Starling, and obviously he's a bit of a joke around the camp and everything. But he went up to Wolford and he had Josh Hodgson next to him. They were having a team photo. And he said, "Oh, Ricky told me to tell you you've been benched this week." And Wolford sort of went, "Fuck off! No, I haven't. No way. That wouldn't happen." Blah blah blah. But he said it so casually that it sounded to me like Wolford was so confident.
Yeah,
that role was his. And then within 2 weeks, he's playing 9 minutes now. I got the impression for the last 6 months that Ricky couldn't think of anything worse than playing Tom Starling for big minutes.
Well, I got the impression they'd found their guy.
Yeah.
They'd found their guy.
Now it's just completely backflipped. I can't work it out. It's bizarre.
Yeah. That 9 role, ever since Hodgson has been, I don't know, on the outer, or I don't know what it was, it has just been a role they have been unable to cement, which is like almost the one role you want someone there every single week more than any other. Like, okay, yeah, you want your 6 and 7, but the connection you need to build between your 6, 7 and 9 is just crucial.
It's crazy they're in the position they're in when you consider that the first half of the season they had a different fullback to who they have now.
They went one win from 8 games or something start of the season.
They didn't have their prized halfback that they signed, their prized signing at halfback. So they changed between halfbacks the entire year. They've changed between hookers the entire year. For them to even be relevant, I think it's a really good knock. But then I go through this squad and I straight away look at it and go, well, you should be playing finals footy with that pack.
Mate. Hudson Young.
Like him.
Think about this. Hudson Young, Tarpanet, Papali'i. Then you've got Elliot Whitehead, a stalwart of the game, like a veteran. Then you got Adam Elliott. Like this forward pack is a beast of a forward pack.
God, I love Corey Horsburgh too.
Oh,
I just think he's such a good character to have in our game.
I love it too. Big Red. He's so fiery.
He's the best.
Fire is literally coming out of his head. Yeah. So look, the good thing is, like, what's really interesting is, like, I feel like Manly and Raiders were like this, and Manly's just gone, and Raiders have taken their opportunity. They haven't gone like straight up that. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like the opportunity was in front of both clubs, more so Manly. But Raiders have managed to hang on, and Manly have just fallen off a cliff.
You know what else I loved in this? Jack Whiten, the game was on the line in the back end. He tried to kick a 40-20 from his own end. I was putting in the crowd.
Yeah.
But like that would rattle so many blokes. The camera panned to him after, and he sort of smiled and went, "Oh, my bad."
I love Jackie Whiten.
And then he scored the match-winning try a couple of minutes later. I love that sort of mindset that he's got.
He's just, if you ever wanted a good example of a guy that could have gone another way, like, you know, tough upbringing, tough certain things that in his teenage years, all the talent in the world, and I almost wonder, like, if he had to come up through Sydney, he probably would have gone the wrong way.
So. Yeah.
And it's just a really good example of, like, sometimes you just can't give up on a young man or woman and give them another, like, put an arm around them rather than shun them for the things they do wrong.
Yep.
And Jack Whiten is the perfect example of that. Like, I love the way he plays. I love what he does in the community now. Like, you ask any Raiders fan, Jackie's their favourite. Like, he's a leader on and off the field now, and he really could have gone the other way. Like, you know, the video stuff that we saw.
When the video stuff came, I was like, oh my, like, if you would have said to me in 3 years' time he'll be a Dally-M medal winner and a Clive Churchill winner as a 5'8",
and like one of the best like players like that for Origin as a centre.
Yeah, a guy that we don't pick for Origin 3 and we go, fuck, we should have picked Jack.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's a great story of a redemption.
Is he a certainty for the Kangaroos? He's the one we forgot about. He's your 14/6 that we couldn't pick.
Yeah, I think he'll be in the squad.
Yeah.
I think Mal. I think
Mal would like Jack.
Yeah. He's a goer that Mal would love, I reckon. And so a real story of redemption, Jackie Whiten. Seriously, like, again, like it's not excusing, you know, the stuff ups that he's had, but it's just saying, like, sometimes giving a bloke a chance can work.
Yeah.
How quickly are we to condemn people and say, nah, you're done. And Jackie Whiten's the story that you want to point to and go, you know what, we can turn this guy around, and then he can be an inspiration for a lot of young fellas that may or may not deal with what he had to deal with or whatever. But yeah, outside of that, Papali'i, outside some offloads. Like, it was a bit surprising with Papali'i. But outside of that, him streaking away to get them back in the match or win the match?
No, that was the play that Jack scored on the end off, I think.
To win the match.
Yeah.
Man, the amount of games, honestly, as a front rower, he might have like had the most match-winning moments I've ever seen.
I think it's fair, yeah.
Like, he's just, fuck, I love Papali'i.
And you had like Andrew Fafita in 2016 had a few, but Papali'i's been doing this for 3 and 4 years now.
Their run to the grand final, he literally won the match with tries, like front rower.
And the year before, wasn't the year before that when he ran over Damien Cook to win a percentage?
Yeah, in the 2019 preliminary final.
And Origin, even though you guys ended up winning with Tedesco, he was the one that scored the try to get us back into it.
Same year, 2019.
And everyone was sitting there going, oh, Queensland are going to do exactly what they do every year, and he's scored in the corner. So look, as I said, I thought Raiders were going to come out and put them to the sword, and I'm not convinced that they're going to go on and win each game. But out of the clubs that have taken their chances, it's Ricky's Raiders that have taken their chance. Like, they've kept themselves somehow in the fight, and honestly, it reflects what Ricky was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even when you thought the fight was over, if there was one bloke still fighting, it was Ricky. And like, you know, he has his rough edges and, you know, he makes mistakes, Ricky, but boy, it's enjoyable to watch. Yep. As in, like, you know, seeing a Raiders team come out in the second half. You got, you know, Hudson Young in their face. You got Corey Horsburgh blowing up. It's good to watch. It's what footy's all about. Yep. Fight, just fighting, and that's what the Raiders have. So, really, really good to see. You know, and I think Chris and Tomoko have had some good year. I think Kotrick has slowly built back into some really good form. I think they're probably going to miss Adam Elliott. Ryan Sutton, I think, is also maybe going to the Bulldogs.
He's going to the Bulldogs, I think he played his last game too. I think he got injured.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Emre Gula was good off the bench. They've got good guys like Albert Hopewadi coming through. So,
there's still a lot of juniors there that are going to come through, which Tim can talk about more next week. But, like your Trey Moonies, and you've still got Harley Smith to come back as well.
He'd come back. He had that
of
spot initially.
Yeah, and like there's even like the halves that played earlier, like your Schneiders and stuff, like they can all play.
Totally forgot about Schneider. He was a gun.
Schneider and Frawley.
Yeah, even though like they made the right decision or whatever, I still thought that he showed some real good signs.
And he's gone back to Cup and played well.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he showed some great signs, Schneider. Anyway, now on to the Knights. Clemmer runs for 175 metres, doesn't miss a tackle, 35 tackles. Surprise, surprise. But I will say, holy moly. We've already spoken about Knights Junior, so I won't stay here for too long, guys, but really disappointing for them because the game was there.
Yeah.
22-8 up at halftime, around that. And then the fans, they come out every week and so.
Especially up there I've said it before, but so many times this year they've disappointed on a Sunday afternoon in Newcastle.
Yeah.
That used to be the nightmare.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad footy side.
That's not. Look,
it's not a bad footy side to excuse what they've chucked up this year.
Yeah, no, agreed. I will say, though, some positives, silver linings. Christian, Mapapa Langi.
Called it.
We called it. We got it. Nailed it. Showed some good signs. A try assist, 10 tackles, 0 misses, 5 tackle breaks. He's not that big. But he's a goer. He's a massive goer.
I'm not sure if Bradman Best will walk straight back into this side, to be honest with you.
Well, with the way that they've been going, it's almost like, do they want to send a message? Do you know what I mean? Like they may want to send a message of
Might be a good time to do it.
Yeah. And so look, the silver lining for Knights is like when we talk about juniors and how that's a problem for them. I thought Christian held his own. I thought he looked comfortable. The fact that he had no missed tackles in his honour debut and he lost, and so we're talking about the Raiders here. It's no walkover.
And who was he marking? Tomoko, who played. I thought he was good. He's a strong centre. He's hard.
Strong as shit.
Yeah, so it's a good knock.
What do you got?
Alex McKinnon tweeted about him. Wait until you see him play 6.
Yeah, because he's a 6.
Yeah.
So that's why it's promising, because as we spoke about last week, he was a 6. But we're talking about a guy that comes into first grade, gets a try assist, doesn't miss a tackle, playing out of position. So there's a bit about him.
Well, it's also his first year at the club. He was playing for Manly in the SG Ball last year.
Yeah. So silver lining, Christian, he may be the guy. He'll obviously probably replace Anthony Milford, I'd say, next year. And if he explodes onto the scene, then who knows? Like maybe he's the guy that can turn everything around and him and Kalen Ponga develop a crazy connection.
Hopefully.
But yeah, outside of that, not really much else to talk about. Very disappointing. We are done and doosted. We're done and doosted. Anything else, Guru?
No, mate, I'm done.
You're a Dunskies? Put a fork in you?
Put a fork in me, I'm done.
Now, Budgie Smuggler. Go to budgiesmuggler.com.au, use the code word bloke for 20% discount, or head over to bloke.shop, grab a Bloke Dad shirt. We've still got them up on the site. Grab a case of Bloke and a Bar beer. Head to our website. You put in your postcode. It shows you the nearest stockist. Grab a case of Bloke and a Bar. It's a beautiful, beautiful beer, guys. But as usual, I'll go and fuck myself.